Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your patience while we resolved a couple of issues. I would like to call this meeting to order and recognize my good co-worker here, Councilwoman Nia Young, for the invocation.
Thank you very much. So today we have Pastor Timothy J. Kemp. Pastor Timothy J. Kemp is the president and CEO of Peace Progressive Community Church, located in the heart of East Tampa, where he has faithfully served through outreach and evangelism for over 26 years. His leadership reflects a deep commitment to community transformation, meeting people where they are, and creating opportunities for faith, growth, and empowerment. He earned his associate degree in theology from Florida Theological and Cultural Seminary and is actively associated with the Hillsborough Organization for Progress and Equality, the Department of Juvenile Justice Center, and the East Tampa Civil and Business Association, extending his influence across both spiritual and civic arenas. Pastor Kemp is married to Ursula K. Odom, owner and operator of Ursula's History Shop in Tampa Park Plaza. Together, they represent a dynamic partnership grounded in service, cultural preservation, and community uplift, each playing a vital role in strengthening the historical and spiritual fabric of the Tampa community. Pastor Kemp, will you please lead us in the invocation?
Good morning. Let us pray. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. This is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Father, we welcome your spirit in the midst of this meeting, and we ask, Father God, that you would touch all of the council representatives. God, be with the mayor of this city, be with the chief of police, be, God, with the fire chief, be with all of the city workers. And Lord, let us transcend, God. Let us love one another as Christ hath loved us. And let everything be said and done this day be done decent and in order for the betterment of our community. We pray these prayers in your name and for your sake. And all of those in this assembly say, amen.
Amen. Pastor Kemp, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, clerk. Would you call the roll?
Miranda. Here. Maniscalco. Hurtak. Here. Young. Here. Vieira. Here. Carlson. Here. Condon.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd like to get a motion to adopt the minutes from April 2nd, 2026 and the evening session held April 9th, 2026. I have a motion from, April 9th. Oh, that's you got an old one there. Yeah, they've retyped it with a typo. I have a motion from Councilman Miranda, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Very good. Let's do approval of the agenda. I've got a request for item number 57 to continue it to May 7th. Can I get a motion? There's a public hearing. Yeah. We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. I have a request from staff to for item. Actually, that's not. Huh? Is it 67? Hey, Sam. On this one, come here. Staff reports. 67. Okay. Okay. We have a request for 67 to continue to April 23rd, 2026. Councilwoman Hurtak.
And I just want to say that one of the reasons they want to move it is because that's next week. It's our workshop on trees, so it kind of goes a little bit better together.
Okay, can I get a motion? We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. That's 67 moving to April 23rd, 2026. Okay, very good. Anything else on the agenda?
I have a question, if I may. On item 57, Councilwoman Hurtak, I know you were inquiring on it. And I should have spoken with Mr. Brody on this. I had some private sector stuff this week that took a lot of time. Is this entailing with your suggested changes, or?
No, not yet.
Okay, just to
I
know
am
what they
working
are.
on it, but no, this just came across.
Okay, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm good with it. Whatever, it's all good. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Anything else on the agenda? Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Councilman Vieira.
For item, I apologize here. There we go. For item 66, I had a good long meeting with staff yesterday on it. I'll talk to council about the results of this, and I think we have something that's workable that we're moving forward on, but I do not need a presentation on this. Mr. Brody does not need to be here on this, or anybody from staff, unless if Chief Bennett or
Oh, yeah,
somebody
that's
wants to
right,
talk about it. But
Okay,
just
let's talk about
FYI.
staff reports, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought.
Staff reports, so 66, we've got, no, 59, well, okay, I was just gonna, since he started on 66, so we do not need staff on 66. And everybody concurs with that, unanimous consent, no staff. Okay, let's go, start back at the beginning. 59, 60, and 61 go together. We've kind of talked about this ad nauseum. Do we need staff on this? We just need to vote. Okay, very good. Okay, so no staff. 62. Okay. 63, which goes with 62. Yeah, no staff. Okay. 64. Yes. 65. Staff is going to. Let's see. Okay. Do we need staff? We don't need staff on that, do we? That's kind of like.
For 65.
For 65. Councilman Carlson. No. Okay. Yep. Councilman Carlson? So you want that on 65? You want staff here? Okay, so yes on 65. Okay. Okay, so we already said 66 is no, 67 no, and 67 is continued. 68 is a written. Can I get a
Do we have an administrative update?
We do not. Okay. And no administrative update. Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. To receive and file 68. Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco to approve the agenda, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Yeah, let's do that now too. I haven't done that in a couple times. You're right. So let's do that. Just for public awareness, I want to read the open board and commission positions that are council appointments. We have vacancies in the board of the Architectural Review Commission for an alternate ARC member, the Barrio Latino Commission for a BOC architect, a Barrio Latino Commission for a resident of Ybor City's historic district, Community Benefits Advisory Council at large, also an ad hoc project specific position, actually two of those ad hoc project specific positions, and the Historic Preservation Commission and urban planner. So if you fit any of those qualifications and you wish to apply to those, what's that? Or know anyone, please go to the City of Tampa website and fill out the application for those board appointments. Okay, so we have approved the agenda, and we are on to our commendation. Councilman Miranda. They're here tonight not to ask for money. It is a team effort. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, honorable members of Tampa City Council. It's my honor to be here this morning with one of the most needed departments in any city in the world, and that's the water department. Today we are recognizing May 3rd through May 9th, 2026 as Drinking Water Week and honoring the Tampa Water Department for the work they do every day, and they provide the safest drinking, reliable water for our community. Clean drinking water is one of the basics and most important services any city can provide. As you well know, it takes a team behind the scenes every day to make this happen. This commendation is also a reminder that water is limited and a valuable resource, and that protecting it both strongly and with a great utility team and a community committed to conservation. That means all of us, not only the elected officials, the employees that make the work, the leaders who do that, but the citizens also have to participate to make sure that we have a quality drinking water for what we're going through, and that's called a drought. So it's my honor this morning to bring up and invite the Water Director, Roy Jones, to share a few words on the importance of conservation.
Thank you. Rory Jones with the Water Department. And I guess before I jump in, I'm going to piggyback a little bit on your conservation, and it takes everybody. And I want to thank our community, if I could share at least the Elmo. I want to thank our community for contributing. We have a finite resource, and we're really thin on that reservoir water resource. I ask your continued support and the community's continued support for conservation efforts. And, you know, if anything, walk away from here knowing your watering day. We do have the 1 day per week watering restriction, and I ask that you know your watering day and help us conserve our most precious water resource here. And, you know, before I hand it over to, I wanted to recognize the individuals behind me. As you've mentioned before, this is a team effort, and these men and women behind me represent huge dedication to the community. They operate the treatment plant 24/7, 365 days a year, hurricanes, holidays. They eat, breathe, and sleep there. Without their dedication, we wouldn't have the utility and the quality water we have today. And additionally, they are being recognized on a state and national level as well. We have just learned we received, or they have received, the American Water Works Association award, which is the most improved treatment plant operator award for 2025. And additionally, they received the Department of Environmental Protection award as the Regional Plant of Excellence award. And it's all due to their dedication, and wanted to give an opportunity for Paul Noski to introduce these individuals. Paul is our head operator. He is the one that actually holds our Class A license here at the David L. Tippin Water Treatment Facility. I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, great. Good morning. Thank you. First, I want to quickly acknowledge the folks that are here in the room today. I'll go one by one. Brad May, Kristen Racine, Mark Metcalf, Eric Jordan, Darren Prasad, and AJ Shaw. And, you know, these awards that we just got, thank you. Yeah. It's a collective effort of the hundreds of people that work around the plant. We've got other divisions, our field quality group, laboratory staff, maintenance, and instrumentation technicians. And this is just a reflection of, like Rory said, operational excellence, regulatory compliance, and just consistency and production. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's important for me and all the council members, and I'm sure you all do it the same way we all do. We have to conserve. In order to get through what we have today, a drought situation in this whole area, we must conserve water, because we cannot produce it. We can't make it without it coming to us, or we have to dig it or buy it or do whatever we have to do. But these individuals, especially the leaders, are the ones that make the decisions on where to buy, where not to buy. The reservoir is not where it's at, and if it does, we only have water there for about 18 days, I think it is, something to that degree. But thank you very much for council for always giving support to the water department. It's a pleasure for me to represent you today on this thing, and I really appreciate the work that all mean. These are just a sample of what works there. All of them make it work, but they have to work together, and we, the citizens, have to provide less drinking water to somewhere else. If not, you won't have it. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Hurtak, Councilman Maniscalco, and Councilman Vieira, did you want to say? Sure.
I want to say thank you so much. Water is one of the things that people just expect. You expect to get it. We do hear when you clean the systems and you use chlorine, we do hear about that. But otherwise, you know, we don't hear from people about water and water quality, and that's because of you all behind the scenes doing exactly the things we need to do. And I just wanted to again plug please make sure you are watering on your watering day, and if you don't need to, don't. I've got a St. Augustine lawn, and I'm just not watering. What happens happens. But I also just conserve, you know, make sure that you are not using the water that you don't need to use, because at some point it's just we're gonna have to charge more. There's no, I mean, I don't want to think about that day, but I really do appreciate what you all do in this area that seems to have so much water, and how we're really looking down. It looks like this summer is going to be kind of dry, so this is not going away anytime soon. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you. I just want to thank you and your entire team. Thank you for all you do. You're behind the scenes, but without you guys and gals, and ladies and gentlemen, you know, people don't understand the importance of it. And Councilman Miranda, you know, talked about, you know, things that we don't talk about, water. So, quick question. Hand watering is prohibited between 8 and 6. What about if I wash my car in a driveway?
There is, at this point, there still is some discretionary use, like water, washing the car, but it's only on your watering day.
Okay.
Yeah, and you have to use the shut-off hose, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious. Thank you very much.
Councilman Vieira.
Yes. No, thank you, Councilman Miranda, for bringing this forward. And no, just wanted to salute all of y'all as public servants, and we just appreciate all the hard work that y'all do. And you guys have wonderful leadership and good people at top, and good people in the middle, and good people all throughout. So, like other folks have said, you know, we never hear about water, and that's just to y'all's credit. So, just God bless you guys.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, thank you to all of you, and to everybody in the facilities or in the field right now who might be watching. We thank all of you. Like my colleague said, we hardly ever hear any complaints about the water department, because that means you all do a good job. And when anything goes wrong, your team jumps in and fixes the problems immediately. You know, we've given individual awards to some of the individuals, but you know, there was one case which we talked about a couple of months where I made a call and the guy was there before I could even drive over there. And so that is incredible customer service. So thank you all for creating a system that's reliable and that creates great customer service. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your service. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next presentation. I'd like to recognize Councilwoman Lynn Hertek.
Oh, I'm just going to wait a second while
Okay.
folks file out.
Is anybody from the Zoom?
Yes, I've got 3 people.
Okay. Cool. Take your roll up on the podium.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna,
Oh, okay.
oh, I guess, yeah, you're right, sorry. I do these so rarely.
I said, what are you doing? Get up there, get your moment in the sunshine.
Why do we have such a small?
You just calm down. Here, now see, look at that. Look at that. Look
Okay,
what you
yeah,
did.
just come on around.
Look what you just did. Look what you just did. You just.
Okay, I am honored to be here today with some folks from Zoo Tampa. So Mark Haney of Zoo Tampa reached out to my office when Florida Panther Lucy passed away and asked if City Council could pass a resolution honoring Lucy. In that process, and as my time on the Zoo Tampa board, I have learned how Lucy, among other things, acted as an ambassador for Zoo Tampa to teach the importance of protecting Florida's natural habitat. I was happy to bring the motion to council, and now representatives from Zoo Tampa are here to share some of Lucy's story. We do not have an actual physical thing. We're going to pass a resolution today, so because it hasn't passed, I don't have it with me, but we'll send it to them afterwards. So I'm going to introduce Mark Haney, and he'll introduce his colleagues.
Good morning, Mr. Haney.
Good morning. I'm Mark Haney, Chief External Relations Officer for Zoo Tampa. And I'm going to let Chris Massaro, who is our Chief Zoological Officer, and Molly Lippincott, who really worked with Lucy the most and oversees our Florida realm, talk. So
how we work, if you guys don't come to council, start with your name first for our record, and then you go. Thank you.
Chris Massaro. I want to start by thanking you all. We really appreciate the honoring of Lucy today. Lucy was an absolute icon, capturing the hearts of everybody who works at Zoo Tampa and the millions of guests that have visited Zoo Tampa over her 18-plus years. Also, globally, through our work with National Geographic Wild and the Joel Sartori photo arc, where her image was projected on landmarks. So she was a global icon, the epitome of what a true ambassador to her species is, bringing worldwide recognition for the plight of the Florida panther and the conservation work here in Florida. But her legacy continues, and continues with new residents at the zoo. I'll introduce Molly.
Sure. So I'm Molly Lippincott, Senior Curator of the Florida team. We actually just recently have a new panther who came to the zoo, and what's kind of interesting is he actually arrived on Lucy's birthday last July. And then we made an effort. He had been hit by a car, had two broken legs, and made an effort to try to recover him. He actually went to another institution, and unfortunately, due to his habituation with people and due to his injuries, FWC declared that he was non-releasable. So he actually returned to us and made his debut right after Lucy passed. So we do think in some capacity she kind of brought him to us to help with us mourning her loss. I worked with Lucy for 18 years. I've been at the zoo for 19. She was an incredible animal. So many people came to the zoo. She would take selfies with a lot of people. She loved to be on camera. So very honored to represent her and the species here today. So thank you very much. I'm sure a new one. What's his name? I'm sorry. His name is Loper. So he is a really young animal, about 2 years old. So definitely come visit him.
Very nice. Very good. Well, one, I'm a sucker for animals, and two, I really appreciate the work that you all do on rehabilitation and taking care. It's a big responsibility for us as human beings to be able to be kind, and it's our responsibility to ensure that we share this world with these amazing creatures and create. They create that symbiotic balance in the universe and in our world for us. So thank you so much for the work that you do. And I used to love to go to the zoo and see Lucy, and I haven't seen Loper yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing him and appreciate the work that you all are doing. Thank you so much, and thank you, Councilwoman Hurtek, for bringing this before Council. And Councilwoman Hurtek, would you like to move this resolution?
Yes, what number is it?
It is number 2. Resolution of the City
Is that where
Council
the
of the City of
resolution is at,
Tampa.
number 2? Okay,
I'll
yeah,
read
so
it.
I'll move
read
the
it for you.
resolution.
Yeah, so it's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Tampa honoring and celebrating the life and legacy of Lucy, Florida Panther Ambassador at Zoo Tampa, and recognizing her extraordinary contributions to conservation, education, and wildlife awareness, expressing appreciation to Zoo Tampa's animal care professionals, veterinarians, and educators and conservation partners for their continued dedication to protecting endangered species and inspiring our community.
So I move resolution.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtek, a second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate seeing you guys here this morning. Okay, Councilman Maniscalco, you're up.
Thank you very much. All right, it's my pleasure to introduce Chief Tripp from Tampa Fire Rescue, and she's got a team with her who will be making a brief presentation. Good morning, Chief Tripp.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Council. Barbara Tripp, Tampa Fire Rescue Fire Chief, as well as the Emergency Manager for the City of Tampa. So, of course, I have my team with me today to give you just kind of overview of that post-development, redevelopment plan that we wanted to present to you all. So I will go ahead and let Raleigh start off, and of course we have Chris as well that's going to assist us. He's a consultant that kind of helped us put this together. So Raleigh Tuff, I'll let him go ahead and get started. And I believe you all have the PowerPoint presentation.
It'll come up as soon as they get up. There we go. Start with your name, please.
Hello, Riley Tuff, Lead Emergency Planner with the City of Tampa. All right. So, thank you, Council. Thank you to the administration. Thank you, Chief Tripp, for this opportunity. And of course, thank you to the residents of the City of Tampa. Following the impacts of the 2024 hurricanes, the Tampa Bay region as a whole made a collaborative effort to respond and recover. And through those efforts, we had valuable lessons learned that would help us to build our resiliency. To capitalize on that, the City of Tampa acquired a regional catastrophic preparedness grant to help us develop post-disaster redevelopment plans. A post-disaster redevelopment plan, or a PDRP, is a forward-leaning document that focuses on resiliency, especially helping to restore housing, to restart the economy, rebuild infrastructure, and support communities through long-term recovery efforts. The basic components of a PDRP is a basic plan, a comprehensive risk assessment, a capacity analysis, a post-disaster funding analysis, and improvement strategies. For the City of Tampa specifically, our goals were to implement and maintain and enhance resilient infrastructure and natural resources, to support a resilient and thriving economy that bounces back quicker after a disaster, create a resilient community with a high quality of life, provide timely and equitable access to city resources and information, and finally, enhance resources for recovery and redevelopment. There is a standardized process that we go through to develop an effective PDRP, and to facilitate that process, we acquired the contractor VHB. They worked with the City of Tampa and all of our partnering jurisdictions to go through these efforts and develop PDRPs. As we said, it was a region-wide effort that required collaboration from multiple agencies across multiple lines of businesses. VHB worked with these partners to understand what the infrastructure within our community looked like as they built these PDRP plans. Additionally, within City of Tampa, we developed stakeholder groups focused on specific mission areas. City of Tampa employees supported these stakeholder groups and allowed them a chance to contribute information and to evaluate what was the information that was being collected by VHB. As we mentioned, one of the main components of a PDRP is the comprehensive risk assessment. And VHB utilized multiple modeling systems, including HAZUS, SLOSH, and floodplain, to develop a profile for the City of Tampa, understanding where the high-risk areas and where we are likely to face a variety of different impacts, including our existing building stock, development of debris, possible social impacts, and economic loss. In addition to this, they conducted a capacity analysis where they looked through our current plans, policies, and programs and compared them against best practices to identify potential strengths and possible opportunities. What I can say about this slide is that this was developed last year. Since then, we have seen developments and improvements to some of the listed items on there, including solid waste and their debris management plan, which has been updated as well. In addition to this, a major component of a PDRP is not just to get the agencies and the employees, but to reach out to the general public and to get their feedback. So we hosted 2 public sessions that allowed residents to come in to provide their insights and their experiences as they contribute towards the PDRP effort. Finally, utilizing the public input, the partner information, our stakeholder groups, and the previously existing PDRP plans, VHB took all that information and developed 65 strategies that can help to improve our resiliency. In closing, what we presented today is just skimming the top of the document. There's over 440 pages up in total. The complete data can be found within the plan and the appendices. For City of Tampa employees, you can find it on the INET underneath Emergency Management and Emergency Plans. And if residents want to check it out, it can be found at the website created by VHB, which is listed on the screen. As a reminder, this focused solely on the City of Tampa's PDRP plan. That regional catastrophic preparedness grant that the city acquired actually supported the efforts for Hernando County, Pinellas County, and Hillsborough County to do these same efforts. In addition to that, they developed an overarching plan that assessed the Tampa Bay region as a whole. So in total, 5 plans were developed utilizing this grant. And finally, as a representative of the emergency management team, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about hurricane preparedness. The season begins on June 6th, which is right around the corner. So now's the time that... June 1st. Thank you, Chief. June 1st is the official start of hurricane season. So now is the time for staff and residents to take their steps to be prepared, which include building a kit, which can last up to 7 days, having a plan, which means knowing your evacuation zone and the local shelters and where you may need to go if you need to evacuate, and finally, staying informed by following the City of Tampa's social media and registering with Alert Tampa to receive notifications. With that, I thank you for your time today, and that concludes our presentation.
Thank you, especially for the information at the end to get people prepared. Is there somewhere they can go to find out all that information in one spot, like where their evacuation zone is, what the list you recommend would be?
Tampa.gov/hurricane contains all the information residents need to be prepared for disasters.
Okay, thank you so much. And
We do have the upcoming Hurricane Expo, which will take place at the end of May, which will allow residents to engage and come in and see all the collaborators that contribute to our hurricane efforts.
And I'm sorry, I was doing a photo for Lucy in the remembrance, but I also wanted to give you all a chance to make a plug for folks who want to help. There is a group that they can do some training for?
Yes, the Tampa Fire Rescue hosts the Community Emergency Response Team, which is a 8-week program, 24 hours of instruction total, that helps residents become prepared for the disaster basics that may impact their communities.
And where, do you have one coming up?
We actually finished our current class next week, and we'll be scheduling another one in the fall.
Okay, wonderful. So they can find that out about that on that hurricane page as well?
And the hurricane page should lead to it. They can also go to tampa.gov/CERT. CERT.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's what I was going to say. It's another name for it, CERT. A lot of people hear CERT as opposed to the Community Emergency Response Team. You know. And just to piggyback off what Raleigh said, on May 30th, we will have a Hurricane Expo, and of course, a lot of the information will be given out to the community as well. It's going to be at, when I say El Lopez Park, Hunt, Cornelia B. Hunt Center. It'll be there from 10 to 2. So we have a lot of vendors, we have a lot of stakeholders that will be there to, if anyone have any information, and we're possibly going to be doing the sandbags as well. So we'll keep everybody informed.
Yeah, thank you for presenting this. So after I started 8 years ago, some of the first storms that came through, folks complained because the lines were long to get sandbags and they had to go out and shovel them. And City Council pushed for automated machines that other cities had, and you all bought, I think, 2 or 3 of them. In between the storms a couple years ago, those machines weren't used, and that created lines again. And I found out later that was because of a shortage of sand. I hope, as you all are looking at the post-analysis, that you all can tweak some things like that, because I think the storm was going to hit on Wednesday and the sand was offered on Sunday, but then the new sand came in on Monday, and I don't know why FEMA didn't help us. They were here taking photo ops. I don't know why they didn't help us get more sand in, but 2 or 3 sand stations isn't enough, and people don't want to stand in long lines. And although it's great for a photo op for us to try to help folks, we all were helping in different ways. It would be great if it just moved really fast and we wouldn't have to worry about it. And I know you can't keep sandbags for too long because they get bacteria and stuff in them. So anything we can do, and if we can help you all to either, there's new leadership at FEMA now, but help get FEMA to move, or to get somebody to move so that we can have that stuff pre-staged. And then the same thing with tarps and water and food. If we can get them pre-staged, there needs to be more than a couple stations to do this so that people don't have to stand out. I mean, people were, at a time when the gas was running out, people were sitting in their cars 5 or 6 hours in heavy traffic all around Britton Plaza trying to get in, and people were confused and angry. And then when they got up there, they had to shovel. And some of the people in South Tampa are going to East Tampa, and the East Tampa one was busy. Anything that we can do to be customer service oriented so that our constituents, they're already scared, they're worried about their facilities. And I know you all know this, I'm just saying if we can do that. And as you know, the tarps are important because the sandbags, just the water can go between them if they don't have the tarps. And in some places we ran out of tarps, and as we're preparing, I think it's not enough to have a grab bag to go or to collect water. People really need to know how to protect their homes, because now we've seen the evidence of it. And some of the homes that didn't get much water could have been protected. There were others where the storm surge came in at 6 feet or whatever, and they couldn't have been. But anything you all can do to help that would be great. Anything we can do to help. The same thing with debris. I know about 3 years ago there was a storm, I can't remember the names, and we had 2 outsourced companies that were supposed to help us clean the debris, and my understanding is a couple weeks before the storm, it was reduced down to 1, and so the debris cleanup was taking way longer than it should have. So then the second outsourced company came back in. I don't know why that decision was made or who made it, but that's when people get really, really upset. And you know, a lot of the neighborhoods in South Tampa were hit by huge storm surge, and places like Colbert Bayou, I drove through there, was knocking on doors, talking to people, and they had everything they owned sitting out in front of it. You all may remember Steve Otto from Tampa Tribune. He lives a couple streets down from me, and his house was flooded. He just moved back in a month ago, and there are so many people like that. There are other issues that we have to deal with, the stormwater there, but if anything we can do to help, he lost his house, but he had his debris sitting there, and the people around him were picked up, and he wasn't for a long time, and we had to call and make that happen. And he's just a big name, but there are a lot of people that face that. And I'm not complaining, just saying in the future, anything we can do. I know we brought out a lot of resources, but had we pre-staged it, had FEMA or the National Guard or somebody had trucks waiting for us, FEMA told us that everything was pre-stationed while they were taking photo ops, but there was a shortage of tarps, shortage of sand, the machines weren't working, and there was not enough tarps, not enough food, and there was no pre-staged debris cleanup, and then we ran out of fuel also. We're lucky that we have, because we haven't let people build condos at the port, we still have the regional supply of gasoline here, so we get filled back up fast. But pre-staging oil supply, gasoline supplies, that's something that FEMA should have helped us with, or the state should help us with. We need to make sure that people help get back to normal as soon as possible. When they're in their most vulnerable moment, when they've lost their house, they've lost everything, if they get frustrated with us, then that just compounds everything that they face. And we really have to focus on the experience that the folks have. And I know you are all in the front row and saw that, but anything we can do, if we need to have those 2 companies or 3 companies instead of 1, we need to not look at whatever lobbying firm somebody's using. We need to look at whether they're good at cleaning up and whether they can get the job done. And if you all need help calling the state or any other agencies to help, please let us know. We're here to help as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Young.
Well, one, I want to thank you all for the presentation. And then I just wanted to plug that CERT is actually going to be at the East Tampa Town Hall on Monday. Some representatives from the program will be there. So if you're in the audience or watching and you're interested in the CERT program, they will be at Fair Oaks on Monday for the Town Hall. Is it free? It's free. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's free. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Very good. Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your presentation, and thank you, Councilman Maniscalco, for bringing this forward. I think it was you. I see the smile. No, but I just, from Milton and Helene, the great work that y'all did. I mean, I couldn't imagine the stress that y'all have and our police officers and everybody during that tragedy, and many of y'all's members were personally affected by that while they're going out there. But I did want to comment on something and just make sure, which is that we have a sandbag location in, if God forbid we're impacted or prospectively impacted in North Tampa, even though a lot of that is Zone X. Number one, obviously what folks went there through in 2024, but alternatively, Councilman Carlson mentioned folks from South Tampa coming to East Tampa. It'll just give people another avenue where they can go get sandbags at the very least. So that's only a request I would make. But again, thank you all for your presentation, and we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
Quick thing.
Go ahead.
You just brought up another point. I know that it's not your area. I'm just speaking to anybody else who's listening. There were areas in South Tampa, I think some areas in his district the same, where there are bowls where water naturally flows to. And so folks will come to us and say, well, I'm in an X flood zone. Why is that happening? But that's because of the water, that's because of storm surge, not because of the fresh water. So like I mentioned, Steve Otto's house, his house is in a bowl, and the city put a pump there a few years ago, but the pump wasn't strong enough to keep pumping the water out because we also had storm surge. So we need to be mindful of educating people that an X flood zone doesn't mean that you're not going to get flooded if you're in a bowl, and you might need all this paraphernalia because people think they're safe when they're really not. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Tripp, and thank you very much for coming out and bringing this to our awareness. Hopefully it will be information we do not ultimately have to use, but it's always better to be prepared and not need it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Knock on that wood.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, very good. Mr. Shelby, if you can hear me, please return to your pit. Grab him because we have to start with. It is time. Somebody took that rope off of you. Mr. Shelby, it's time for public comment. Could you please read the Tampa City Council rules on public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, City Council. Good morning, members of the public. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, to talk briefly about the rules of decorum for today's meeting. Now, if you wish to speak during general public comment, you should have filled out a speaker card and placed it in the box outside the room. 1 card per speaker. Please print legibly. Names that cannot be read will not be called. And per council's rules, preference is given in order to those speaking on agenda items. Members of the public are allowed a reasonable opportunity at the beginning of today's meeting to address any item on the agenda before City Council takes official action on the item. A 3-minute time limit applies to all speakers providing public comment. Speakers and members of the public, please be reminded to refrain from disruptive behavior, including making vulgar or threatening remarks, or making or causing disruptive noises or sounds, or displaying signs or graphics. Direct your comments, please, to the entire City Council rather than individual members. And the chair will rule out of order any person who speaks without being recognized or attempts to address the council from outside the speaker area at the podium. Persons failing to comply with the council rules may also be ruled out of order and, at the discretion of the chair, may be removed from the chambers and asked to leave the Old City Hall for the remainder of today's meeting. Now, if you're here to speak on an item set for a public hearing, and once again, I have to see what numbers those are on the agenda, but they are listed as public hearings. You will have that opportunity when the item is heard later in the agenda. No public comment will be taken later during staff reports. The time to speak on those items and items on the consent agenda is now during general public comment.
51 through 56.
The numbers 51 through 56 are public hearings. If you wish to speak to those, there is a sign-in sheet, a separate sign-in sheet outside, and your time to speak on those items, thank you, Councilwoman, the time to speak to those items are when they are called up individually. And finally, City Council members should refrain from engaging a speaker under public comment, and the public should be aware that City Council does not take questions or have a dialogue during general public comment. This is your opportunity to express your position to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelby. Okay, so we're going to start public comment. I'm going to start with the folks that have filled out public comment cards that are speaking to items that are on the agenda, followed by folks that have filled out cards for people that are off agenda. Pam Cannella, item number 46.
Good morning.
Good morning, Pam. Start with your name, please.
Just a moment, please. Okay, my name is Pam Cannella. I'm here on 46 Flowtech. Flowtech provided stormwater drain cleaning service in 2025. It's on the agenda today. And I'm concerned that they did not do their job efficiently in Palmacia Pines. The question is, what is the city's process for auditing the project and ensuring contract compliance? My understanding when cleaning these drains, it usually takes minimum of 4 hours, usually a day or more. I observed Flowtech truck in Palmacia Pines from June 6th to July 3rd. On June 6th, the first day of work, they were sitting by the road in the air condition. And I spotted them more than once. I actually saw them clean 6 drains from June 6th to July 3rd during that month. I looked for their location every day, and I did note down, and I have pictures and documentation of what they did on what day. I'm not going to tell you about them today. Some days they spent looking into drains, and I was looking at one of the, I guess this here, that was, we're charged for them looking. They did a lot of looking, and we got charged for it. I think they did more looking than cleaning because they're getting paid to not do any work. I went back to check on those drains that I had reported that needed cleaning, and I found no changes. These drains still had debris, trash, leaves, and asphalt. So my concern is now, should you rehire Flowtech? They have no cameras. How do they do their inspections? They just open it up and look in. That's what I saw. Are they going to clean all the drains? Is there a plan? How are they determining which ones need cleaning? And if there's water in the drain, does it still get cleaned? Because I heard that excuse that there was water and they couldn't clean that day. There's some that have X marked on the spot on the top of the drain. And I was told that those were done in September 2024. So when they looked in 2025, they looked in, it was done in 2024. Did it get done? I don't think so. So let's go back to the contract compliance and auditing the project. Let's make sure the job gets done. Our lives depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Next speaker is Keela McCaskill. It just says yes, but no, no.
Good morning, Keela McCaskill. I so wish we had a Pam Canella in East Tampa when we were forced to pay $300,000 to walk around a pond. Nevertheless, I'm here this morning. I heard the hurricane preparation, and so often it's associated with water, flooding, sandbags, all of that. I'm still not in my home because of a tree. So hopefully, I don't know where that department is because I'm not very familiar with it. I never would have thought that I would still be relocated or still be displaced because of a tree. Is there somebody that can come in and talk to us about preparing for the hurricane as it relates to trees? I was in Southeast Seminole Heights, that's where I live, and the tree from a neighbor came into my home. I still don't understand why they're not responsible for it, but can somebody give tips on what to look for trees or how to prepare for a hurricane as it relates to trees and also the storm? But like I said, I don't know where that is, but all of you, I'm sure you can figure that out. I'm here today because most of you are familiar with the community cleanups that I host in mostly marginalized communities. And so several years ago, I did 3 cleanups at one home for this senior who was about to have some significant code enforcement fine, in fact, a demo order. And as a result of a tree, it fell into his home. And then the home sat and sat and sat and sat and sat and sat and sat 4 years while we wait for the owner-occupied rehab. But I'm not complaining today. I actually want to say, send some thank yous, and I actually want to say them by name because too often I come up here and everything is wrong. But today I'm here to thank Abby Feely, Cedric McCray, Belix Parks, and Marquez McGee for telling me last year that they will put everything they have into figuring out how this can work. They had already said what they can't do, but they came back and said that they were going to work through and figure out how they can make this work. And today it's on the agenda as agenda item number 43. I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart, but I want to ask you to support this agenda item. This was a very long process, and then come back because I have another Mr. Braxton right over in Ybor, off of Nebraska, but it worked. He's able to be placed back in his home because they're going to build him a new one, and today you get to approve that. So again, thank all of you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm asking you all to support 43. Thank you.
Thank you, Keela. Next speaker, Ashley Morrow. We're on off agenda items now.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alice Moore.
I'm sorry. We're what's your name, ma'am?
Oh, I think you said Alice Moore. Alice Moore. I thought you just said that.
I'm sorry.
No.
You'll be number 4. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's okay.
No, you're good.
So Ashley Morrow followed by James Adair.
1 second. All right. So,
Hello, my name is Ashley Morrow, and I'll be sharing Tampa's Black History. Last week, we started off talking about the story of the lynching of Arthur St. Clair, and it was reported by a black woman named Mary R. Tanner. And we're going to continue that story. Last week, she was on horseback, and he was walking alongside the horse, and a group of white men came and basically ambushed them. And I'm going to start from where we left off. He said, "St. Clair, damn you, don't run." And he said, "I'm not going to run." Cross then cocked his gun. When St. Clair said, "Hi, hold on. What do you mean?" He, Cross, then rode back to the party, who by this time formed themselves on horses in a circle completely surrounding Mr. St. Clair, then recognizing some of them, called them out by name: Mr. Saxon, Mr. Rose, Mr. Center, Mr. McIntosh, Mr. Hennis, Mr. O'Berry. "Let me talk to you. I know all of you." At this, I noticed that they immediately drew their hats over their faces. O'Berry cocked his gun. St. Clair then backed towards my horse. I sung out, "Oh my God, Mr. Rose, will you kill this man after hiring him to come here to do your work?" I believe he was running off some land for him and others. They laughed. The reporter: "You say St. Clair called the names you just mentioned, but do you know whether they were correctly named or not?" "Yes, sir. I live in Brooksville. I have lived there all my life, that is. I am now living in Fort Dade, but we call it Brooksville, and I know the man full well." The reporter then said, "Then you were certain those were the men?" "Yes, sir, quite certain. And others who I have not named, they are Mr. Nix, William Nix, and Robert Nix." The reporter said, "Is this Mr. Cross a white man?" "Yes, they were all white men, and I know them all full well." We'll go on. After some of them had laughed, George Cross leveled his gun at St. Clair, and another man, who I cannot swear to, also leveled his gun. Cross fired, and the other men fired, but I don't think either of the shots killed him immediately. As he started to run, saying, "Oh my Lord, I'm gone." When they fired, I saw the flash of light blaze on St. Clair's head. The whole party, they galloped after him, and while their attention was turned in his direction, I took the opposite way and made my escape. I started on my horse, but my saddle not being girded, I could not get along fast as I wanted. So I got off and took to my feet. I heard several shots fired in the direction of the party took. The reporter said, "Do you know anything about the killing of Lloyd?" This is another person that was lynched around that time. "No, sir, I didn't hear it until the next morning." Reporter: "Are you willing, Ms. Turner, to go to Tallahassee before a court and swear to all of this?" Okay, that's part next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. Always appreciate it. James Adair, followed by Pastor Williams. Pastor Williams, you're
Really grown to love those updates. All right. James Adair, the neighbor who cares. I want to introduce a new idea. This is called the no callback bingo. So when we have emails, text messages, public records requests, and it sits in somebody's desk and it's been, 3, 4 weeks or whatever, we're going to start putting some names down here. Everybody starts with a fresh line today. We're not going to write anybody down, but I am waiting on some things from finance. I was trying to get some CIT information so that in a timely way we would have educated information to the public about the raised proposals, et cetera. Thank God Hagar put together a phenomenal presentation for the Budget Committee, and without that, you would have no consolidated source of information. The one thing I'm learning through a lot of these conversations is that in many ways we assume as the public that everybody else in the city and up here already has the information. And what I'm finding out is that's not true. So the things that we're discovering, you get to discover as well. So I hate to come to this, but as we go through many weeks sometimes of no callbacks, we're going to have a no callback bingo. So if you don't want to end up on this, please return calls, messages, emails. And you'll know if you have been put on notice by searching, check microphone, check test, does this thing work? I send that out as a reminder to say, I'm waiting on an answer. And I really try not to be a jerk about these things. Before I go public with most of these videos or accountability type conversations, I have given people opportunities to speak up about the issues, and either they choose not to educate me on the issue so that I could be more educated to tell folks, but at the end of the day, we do need some accountability, and if we've got to do it this way, we will. because I have a minute, I will say this. Many people will be working on a project and they say, oh, I'm working on it now. At least respond to the email and say I'm doing that. Otherwise, the only belief that's out there is that it's in the black hole. All right, guys? And then finally, sandbags. It wasn't my topic, but I know a heck of a lot about it. They're mostly useless unless if deployed properly, and the city doesn't have the bandwidth or the capacity to give out enough of them to make it work right. Perfect example, I had a friend who I helped at 1:30 in the morning bail out of his house, get his dog, the whole 9 yards, and he sandbagged everything. It was perfect. His front door was great, and he forgot that he had a dryer vent, so he's still flooded. So at the end of the day, sandbags, giving out 5 is a totally useless thing, but people need to feel like they're doing something, and so I understand the purpose of it, but 5 bags ain't gonna do it, and you know, I appreciate why it's there, but the reality is it's just not functional. So anyway, thank you guys, I appreciate it. And staff, listen, I know it sounds tough sometimes, but many of you do an amazing job. Thanks.
Pastor Williams, welcome. While Pastor Williams comes up, I also learned from a house that if you live on a slab, it seeps between the slab and the walls, so same thing. You can sandbag your door, but unless you sandbag the whole house, it's not gonna work. Pastor Williams, start with your name, please. You have 3 minutes. Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Pastor Frank Williams, located at, I was on Scott Street, but now I'm in my home there on Chatterlawn. There's a big hole in the middle of the street. You can't miss it. Right down Chatterlawn and 30th Street. And been like that for about a month now. And you know what? I basically come here to talk about what y'all call the Jackson House. That place looks so bad over there. I pass by there every morning after come here. What y'all gonna do about the Jackson House? Just gonna let them splinters continue to stand? And we need this thing tore down. We need to be demolished. And I called the guy by demolishing it. You know what he told me? I got to get a permit. And you know what the permit gonna cost? $12,000. Just to get a permit to tear the damn thing down. Tear it down in the house. Even if you don't get a permit. I don't know why when it come down to people of color, oh, we ain't got no money. We ain't got enough money. I guess you don't, because it's all in your pocket. And we have to understand, take it out your pocket and spend it for good use. And that's what it's all about. No, we just keep complaining, but nobody do a damn thing. Isn't that something? And don't care. Act like when we come up to make a complaint, y'all got clamps on your mouth. You can't say nothing. But I want y'all to talk back to me. If you don't want to talk back to me, get your counselor to talk to me. He don't want to do nothing for me. But one thing about us, we gonna keep complaining. Even if you don't do nothing but tear the damn frame down. Tear it down until you get some money. You got the money. Our tax money is so high and so ridiculous now till we can't hardly pay that no more. I got a piece of property with my daddy left to me, and he died in '85. And you know what? I done paid enough taxes on it to be done bought the house. Ain't that something? And that's the way that y'all do things. We so sad that nobody seems to care about people of color. We only think about people, white people getting the thing done. And so you know what? Next week, y'all come down here, I'm gonna come as a white man. And maybe I'll get some results. And that's the way life is here in the United States. Nobody cares. Some of y'all walk out here. Is that thing ringing for me already?
It is. Thank you, Pastor Williams. Thank you. Alice Moore, you're up.
Thank you, baby.
And then it's followed by Stephanie Pointer and then Robin Lockett. Good morning, Alice.
Good morning.
Sorry for the confusion. Good morning.
I'm here.
Start with your
Yes,
name-
I'm
start
part
with
of
your-
Florida Rising, but this is something totally different.
Alice, start with your name, please, and right in front
I
of the podium.
just said Alice Moore.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
just, it's upside down.
Oh,
There we go.
no, okay.
It's like a projector. There we
All
go.
right, I'm sorry. Can you see it now?
No, you had it right the first time. Slide it.
That way?
Okay. Very good. Okay, we'll start your time now. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm calling in reference to the gentleman just spoke part of it, in reference to the Black history that is in downtown Tampa. I've written a book, and a lot is mentioned. We always talk about the Jackson House, we talk about the housing project, and we talk about the longshoreman part that's there, and no one ever mentions that the Black community downtown had a community. There were more than just the Jackson House, Central Avenue, and the housing projects, and that's been left out. I've written a book with pictures to show Morgan Street, Scott Street. On Morgan Street was once a vocational high school with a basketball team, taught trades, the different trades, welding, carpentry. It also taught the driver's ed, tailoring, and a number of others. If you can see the book, there's a list of opportunities that was done. We never mention that. When you talk to, as he said, white folks, they mention the Jackson House. They mention Central Avenue, and it was once a housing project. Now the Shrubs, they mention that because condos are there. But we need to make more emphasis on that. On Scott Street, there's nothing, absolutely nothing that shows any of this houses. There are different homes there, what the street once looked like. In the book, you can see the sign, you only see on the Scott Street is a sign to get ready to go on the interstate. There, you also have a church when you're going to 275 and 75, you see the back of a church that's 132 years old. This is right in the downtown area, right where we all live, and there was once a B&B grocery store there. So everything is left out, and there's so much in our community that no one ever mentions. But plus, no one ever says this was a predominantly Black neighborhood. There's nothing to show that we were anywhere from Palm, when it's at Adamo Drive, around part of Evo City, and Florida Avenue, and of course I have to mention the Armature Works, which people once lived, and that's rare to know that that was once a water department. But my main thing is in reference to the area that was homes, that the school, when Don Thompson closed, it is now Blake High School, and it was Blake in '56 when they closed, they built Blake on the water, not the new Blake, the older Blake. But this is to bring more knowledge in reference to our Black neighborhood and just pretend that it's only 4 things that's here in our area. It was a great community, and the last part, there is going to be a marker where Don Thompson School is. Like I said, it's a parking lot in the bus terminal. But November, December, they already have a picture of the school, and I'm the only person with a complete picture of the Don Thompson School that's there. So just for information, please change our areas and make it more known.
Thank you, Alice. I appreciate it. Stephanie Pointer, followed by
Good morning, Stephanie Pointer. The only thing on the agenda I want to talk about today is number 65, the $650,000 that was gifted to the city by TICO because they put in an easement on McCoy in South Gandy. And that $650,000 was put into small parks in June of last year. And when it came up, I included that in my agenda review, but I was not here that week. That money came from Port Tampa being dug up, and the money needs to go back to Port Tampa. It was put into small parks. It needs to be added to the money that should have went into A.J. Polonis Park on Gandy. There's no reason for it not to. We lost out on things because it got slow rolled at getting done. We waited 5 years, so we get less stuff. This money was generated from south of Gandy, and it should go back south of Gandy. So other than that, let's see. You all see me each week. I come up here and talk. You know I live here. I love this place. I have really an abnormal obsession with it. But there is somebody else in the city who does a lot of work. He is a digger. He is somebody who is always on it. It's Michael Bishop. And Michael Bishop writes a column on that's called the Tampa Monitor, and he's going to shut it down because he needs some support. I'm blessed. I have a husband and I have a job that makes it easy for me to spend a lot of time here, but he doesn't. I would like for everybody to start following his page And yes, he said he was going to shut it down, but I think we've already raised a little bit of money to keep him up and running. If you would buy ads from him, but his in-depth investigation is the sole reason why we ended up with all the extra money to start actually paving the streets. Had he not found the state statutes that we could use parking money for paving, we wouldn't have had it. He's the guy. It would not have happened had it not been for him. And to allow this valuable resource, if you go on his website, there's all kinds of data there, data that I could never put together and that I know very few people can actually do. So please support the Tampa Monitor. Please take some time and read about it. He's got links on there where you can buy ads. But we need people like that in our city who really are committed. And I also want to talk about the public services done by the city council. This is the most offensive thing I've seen in a long time. For Bob Buckhorn, at his whatever it was that he's announcing, to say that city council members need to stay in their lanes, that is the rudest, most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. You guys keep busting your humps and doing your job. You are working for the citizens of the city of Tampa and nobody else. I can't say that about him.
Thank you very much. Robin says no, so we'll go to Chagret Doss, I apologize, followed by Julie McGill. Julie McGill will be our last speaker, other than our online.
Excuse me a second,
No, I'm sorry, it is his turn.
I understand that, but I wonder why I'm
You
not
need-
speaking.
Gotta sign up a card.
I'm familiar with that. There was no one there, and there was no cards available. I've been here. There was no cards available, there was no one there, and you guys were late. So what's going on?
In accordance with city council rules, you have to fill a public comment card prior to the start of public comment. I would ask you to take a seat, please. You're in disruptive behavior, please take a seat.
Might I get a card?
No, if the rules are, Mr. Shelby, would you please rule?
There was no cards there, there was no one there.
At the start of public comment, sir, we can talk about this after city council. Would you like to read the rule, please, Mr. Shelby?
Yes, sir, okay. I'm reading from Rule 5.
Hold on, start, no, hold on.
Listen.
Mr. Doss, you're out of order.
It's disrespectful. You see him in here and not listen to
Mr.
him
Doss,
speak.
you're out of order. Please sit down.
No, it's my turn.
Please
so I can say what I want to say during my turn. If I want to speak on his behalf or the behalf of anybody else, the same way that I was willing to lay my life down for this damn country, I can speak to it. Do your job.
Mr. Doss, start for your 3 minutes. If you'd like to use your 3 minutes now, start with your
Absolutely. But listen, my name is Chagret Doss. Now, I had something else to talk about, but to watch you take this man's time from him while he's standing here is utterly disrespectful. Now, as a black man, I will never let you all do that to somebody while I'm sitting here watching it. I don't agree with everything he says, but he has the right to say it. And for you all to sit here and to play this game with this man is disrespectful. That's why these crackers act like that over there. Because you all give them the variance to do it. I can't believe what I'm witnessing in this country. If somebody had told me this, what are we in, 2026? 41 years ago, that 41 years later, 41 years ago, I walked into a MEP station to join the military. Under a set of principles that I watch you all disregard. On a regular basis. I've had you people try to put me in prison. You say nothing. This city, I've watched judges over there not do their job. I've watched the 2nd District Court of Appeals. Now, recently they gave me a reversal, but I've had your attorneys, I filed an appeal, and every time I ask the city and the other attorneys who are representing the people who should be actually in prison, they say, yeah, we agree with it. Yesterday I said I'm going to file a writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court. I'm going to ask for a stay of the mandate. Everybody rejected it. You all have something in your hands that outlines everything that I've gone through for the past 2 decades. And my train of thought is so off because I can't believe what I just witnessed. And for anybody to say it's okay to include the 7 of you all, I'm gonna tell everybody here listening, if you have, when it's time to vote again, if you vote for people who will watch somebody in your city be disrespected, you are the problem. You have to lack ancestral integrity, you have to lack cultural integrity and racial integrity to sit around and watch what gets done to black people and the marginalized on a regular basis. And for those of you who say nothing because it's easier to jump on black folks and Democrats and other people, if you're afraid, if you're scared, just say you goddamn scared. But stay out the damn way. And to what you said, it's crazy because that same dude sent me a text message asking me to donate to him. The same guy running for mayor again wants me to donate to him. Let me tell you something. Before I donate to the guy who stole my properties, I will root against the greatest institution in the history of Tampa, the University of Thomas Jefferson High School. You all should be a damn shame of yourselves.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dawes.
I make a motion to allow him to speak.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Shelby, would you please read the rule?
I'm making a motion to override the rule.
Okay, but I'm saying I want to read the rule first. Be patient. I've got your motion, I've got the second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. You'd like me to read the rule?
I want to read the rule, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. I'll read from Rule 5B regarding this matter. Members of the public requesting to be heard on an item that is not set for public hearing on the regular meeting agenda shall each submit a speaker card prior to general public comment, clearly identifying themselves by name for the record. The process shall give preference to those speaking on agenda items and permit the chair to know the number of speakers in advance. Each person will be recognized by name to approach and given 3 minutes to speak. And there's a motion and second on the floor.
Mr. Chair. And the reason I had this motion is because I disagreed with this to begin with. The cards are ridiculous. I think we just let people stand up and speak.
Okay, Mr. Miranda, Councilman Miranda, followed by Councilman.
I just don't know if there's cards there or no cards there. I don't find it, I'm not trying to get involved in a situation. I understand this has been going on for some period of time, rightly or wrongly, I don't know. But if the cards aren't there, you're supposed to sign one and not there, I said let the gentleman speak.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I believe in the right for citizens to be able to speak, and I don't agree with everything that folks present, but I think they have the right to speak. I don't know what we're doing to, if there's no person out there, I don't know what we're doing to educate people about
the
new
cards were
process.
there until the start of public comment per our rule.
But I don't know how people would know what the rules are. But anyway, the only thing, I second it, but I'd like to add, if possible, can we, if we're going to keep this system, we can talk about that later, but if we're going to keep this system, I'd like to I think we should make this clear that it's a one-time exception, unless we're going to do away with the rule altogether.
Okay, so this is my position, and I'll respect the council's decision. In this, as we are aware, we have had issues, including legal issues, with this. It is our responsibility as representatives of government to, without prejudice, enforce our rules. In other words, one rule for one person is a rule for all. And if we have a rule, I can't pick, as a chair, I can't pick and choose who I'm going to enforce the rules for and who I'm not, which rules I want to enforce or which rules I don't want to enforce. That's where we're going to get in trouble. So if we do make a decision to not enforce a rule because of whatever reason, I'm telling you, City Council followed their procedures. We had staff at the podium with cards until the start of public comment per City Council rules. Now, if this council wants to go down the slippery slope of choosing which rules we want to enforce and which rules we don't to enforce, that is up to this City Council, and I will stand behind the vote of City Council. That being said, I think it's a bad precedent to set, because if you want your chair to make a determination based on who I prefer to enforce rules on or who I prefer not to enforce rules on, God help us all. Councilwoman Hertz.
It's a bad rule, and that's why I'm making the motion.
Wait, bad rule or not, it's still a rule.
But it's a bad rule, and that's what you do in this country. If you don't like a law, you fight to change it. And this is my trying to fight to change this City Council rule that I didn't vote for, that I didn't agree with, and I still don't agree with. So my motion stands, not changed, But I would probably say that we should probably just have someone stand out there and say, you've missed your time. So that is what I'm going to say. I was vehemently opposed to this to begin with, still am.
I mean, I think that's a reasonable suggestion to have someone there, but, okay, Councilwoman Young.
Well, understanding the rules, but as Councilman Carson was saying, if we just, just for this one time, like as an exception, does it still apply? Like, can we just make this one time? Does that?
I said what I said. Councilman Miranda.
I appreciate your situation which you're in. You're chair, that was a rule, that's a rule. However, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if there's no parking outside. I don't know if they're trying to find a parking spot. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's not your job you're doing. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your stand. However, there's another complication problem over here. There's very little parking outside. They got to park somewhere. They got to walk here. They got to make it by the time, and it's a bad rule, good rule. Forget about a rule. It's either good or bad for all of us. So if that rule is over there, maybe we want to put it inside where you sign in, the line goes out so we can see who's doing, who's not doing. But you have the right to speak to a government. I don't care who you are, what color you are, what race you are, how high you are, how thin you are, how good looking you are, how not good looking you are. And I'm not talking about myself. But what I'm trying to say is, we all live together, we all work together, we all play together. That makes the city better. So let's not argue together, okay?
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Councilman Bureau.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to explain my vote if I may, because I support the chair. You've been put in a difficult position in many ways, and I think we should all acknowledge that. And the position that you've taken is born out of that difficult position, one that I have great respect for on many levels. My position is that the juice is not worth the squeeze with regards to precluding this individual from speaking. But I wish to state, though, and I think everybody agrees with this, which is that the comments that have been made by this individual, I repudiate strongly, which is why I'm going to be voting for this. But I do want to acknowledge with great passion and great deference and great respect the position that you're in that I respect. So I just wanted to say this as a professional courtesy and as a friend. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second to waive the rules, and that's without condition, this is waiving the rules. If somebody wants to make an amendment to that, I know you said, or Councilman Carlson, you said to make it an amendment?
I did not accept the amendment.
Okay, I'll make an amendment.
Okay, we have a motion to amend the motion to have it as a one-time exception. Is there a second on the one-time exception? Councilman Maniscalco?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Shelby.
Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, just for the purposes of this. The one-time exception that all is aware of and the public is aware of, just for the record, just know that what the exception is to the rule I actually read while the gentleman in question is present hearing that rule as I read it, so that everybody is on notice and the public is on notice through this discussion as to what that rule is.
Okay, so we have a motion to grant a one-time exception of waiving the rules for Tony Daniels to be able to speak at this particular city council meeting. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Oh,
This is the amendment.
Just the amendment?
Yes, yes, okay. Clerk?
Wait a minute.
Councilman Miranda.
I mean, we're making a difficult decision. More difficult.
Yes, I agree.
Sooner on, and you're gonna regret saying one time only or whatever it is. You can either change the rule or don't make an exception to the rule, because if you go before somewhere else, they're gonna tell you, why are you doing this? I mean.
Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. 2 seconds, if I may. In response to Councilman Miranda's well-founded comments, what I would say is a one-time exception is proper, and if we wish to change the rules permanently, I can come up for a motion time. That would be my suggestion. Thank you, sir.
It sounds like it needs to be a larger conversation about just the whole process in general. That's what it sounds like, which we can't talk about right now because we're literally in the middle of public comment.
Yeah, and
Councilman Hurtak, followed by Councilman Carlson.
Inherently, it's a one-time. Like, let's just do it.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, and the proposal to make it one time is just so it's obvious that it's not a precedent, not for this individual, but for anybody, that it's a one-time thing. It's not if it's if we just look, it looks like if we break the rules once, then it looks like we could do it any time. So I agree that we should have a discussion about the rules later, but my amendment proposals.
Mr. Chairman, the clerk reminds me there was a vote on the amendment. It hasn't been announced.
That is because it wasn't announced, I'm gonna call for the vote again, just for clarification.
On the amendment.
Because it wasn't announced on the amendment. So this is a
Understood.
vote on the amendment for the one-time exception. Please, yeah, okay. The amendment was to grant a one-time exception to the public comment rules that Mr. Shelby wrote, a one-time exception for today's meeting for Tony Daniels to speak at this meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Go ahead and roll call, please. I know, but just, somebody asked for a roll call, so was that out there or was that here? I don't even know.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Hurtak?
No.
Young?
Yes.
Vieira?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
Miranda?
No.
Clendenin?
Yes.
Motion passes with Hurtak and Miranda voting no.
Okay, now that was to amend the motion. Now we have the motion on the floor is what we basically just voted on. And can we have a roll call on that one, please?
Okay, just restate it.
Okay, the motion is to grant a one-time exception to Tony Daniels to be able to speak at, well, it was specifically addressed to this. Yeah, I'll tell you what, if this passes, what I'm gonna do is ask anybody that hasn't registered for cards to have an opportunity to register for cards today. Okay, so will you accept that as a friendly amendment? That anybody, okay. So this is a motion that allow anybody that has not registered for public speaking today to fill out a card and address city council today during public comment. Okay, roll call, please.
Hurtak?
Yes.
Young?
Yes.
Vieira? Carlson? Miranda? Maniscalco? Clendenin?
No.
Motion passes with Clendenin voting no.
Okay, very good. If you are in public, if you are in council today and you wish, and you have not filled out one of these cards, if you wish to address council, please go out to the podium, and if staff would please bring cards out to the podium so that people can fill out cards. Hopefully somebody from staff is hearing that. Would you please submit cards to the podium so people can fill them out? We have two more public speakers. We have one in person and then we have one online. We'll have those filled out by then. So Julie McGill, how's that for a prelude to your public speaking? Come up and start with your name, please. And then we're going to have one online speaker.
I don't think I can top that.
Okay.
Julie McGill. I just have a few things I want to bring up to put them back in the limelight. Ballast Point Pier, I've spoken to residents over there. They're all up in frustration. It's been a year and a half. The pier still sits like it is. They don't have any answers. Maybe we can get them some answers, or at least get something started on that pier. If it hasn't fallen down yet after the hurricane, I really don't think it's going to. It was condemned, completely demolished, and it's not. The Sulphur Springs pool, I was there yesterday. Residents are wondering why it's completely blocked off now. They can't see anything that's going on. There's a fence all the way from the river, all the way around the springs with blue tarp in it. Can't see anything. I don't see any workers around. I did some videos over the top of it. Pool's still drained. I know that you guys passed almost $2 million to fix it. It's still sitting there. We're almost in summer. That neighborhood deserves answers on that. El Prado. This one boggles my mind. Why are we all of a sudden deciding that it needs to go down to one lane for a bike path? I drive the city all the time. The amount of bikes that I see don't warrant the amount of bike paths that we have and that we're still trying to put. So that neighborhood doesn't want it for the most part. Everybody I spoke to, they're saying that's just going to cause a lot of congestion on El Prado. South Howard. Since I was here last, the USF professor also deemed that Palmacia Pines will not be helped at all by that project. I'm not sure all of Palmacia Pines knows that. Maybe they need to be aware of that. I don't know how to get that message out to them, but that project is not going to help them at all. So we're spending all that money on the South Howard project that now we've whittled down the amount of homes even more. That money could go to other areas along with the $56 million sidewalk they're doing on West River. Can you imagine that amount of money being put into East Tampa, Sulphur Springs, and other neighborhoods that really need it? So we still need some answers on these things. And I appreciate the time. I'm not going to take my whole 3 minutes because we already spent a lot of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
I can only say.
Okay, Michael Randolph, are you online?
It's all right.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Randolph. Start with your name. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Michael Randolph. I want to talk about the upcoming workshop that's unique. What's unique about this workshop in leadership that's coming up is that it does not depend on DEI, but on MEI, right? Accuracy and intelligence. From the streets to the boardroom is a leadership training program born directly from the voice of young people in East Tampa, West Tampa, Progress Realist, and Grandpa and Self-Esteem. East Tampa, so far, the most applicants are coming out of East Tampa. They told us clearly, we don't want to be spoken for, they want to lead. Housing insecurity, economic disinvestment, and political exclusion demand bold solutions. Our 12-week program moves you from what it is to what it is, shifting from surviving in marginalized communities to becoming the architect of an empowered neighborhood. We focus on ages 17 to 18, young adults ready to influence. Participants learn affordable housing development, including front door strategies like ownership and access, and backdoor strategies like policy, zoning, financing that protect legacy residents from displacement. They design community-rooted programs, grounded in lived experience and strengthened by evidence-based thinking. They mastered grassroots organizing, coalition building, and digital planning. They explore economic and community development, entrepreneurship, cooperative, and community work mode, build on leadership. We train them in negotiation, mastery, critical thinking, and political insight, giving them the tools to navigate power structure and influence decision-making. In 2006, we'll witness the rise of a new school of thought, a generation of next leaders emerging in our community and ready to move from the streets to the boardroom and redefine leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Randolph. Next speaker is in person, Matesna, please. Start with your name. You have 3 minutes.
Mentesna, I want to say Uhuru, and Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. We as African people should never, ever, ever stop thinking about our freedom. Thousands of years we hadn't been free, but millions of years we were free and an evolving people. And I'm not intimidated by this hatred. It's racial hatred, and that's what I say exactly. Y'all try to intimidate people, you understand? They try to send a message to African people, get back in your nigger place. Nothing more, nothing less. They try to intimidate all African people. You see what they just did with the assistant police chief? A woman that dedicated her life to y'all scumbags. And they fired her publicly. Said that her role wasn't whatever. And me talking in reference to supporting the police never happened. But me talking out against injustice happens all the time. And we're seeing it happen today. We're seeing some people that came out and say, hey, that's unfair. I'm sitting my black ass right there in the chair the whole time. I'm sitting there the whole time. And the lazy people, including y'all, couldn't even get to work on time. The 50th largest city in the United States out of 20,000 cities, and your city council members can't even get to work on time. One time they have to come to work on Thursday mornings and they can't get to work on time. They can't start a meeting on time. And then try to admonish me and ridicule me and all this other stuff like if I want some special favor or special attention or mentally retarded that can't follow instructions or the cars being outside. There was no cars outside. And they have to, just shows how inefficient government is. Spend 20 minutes talking about nothing. But it's the hatred for African people, and it's how they try to intimidate us to accept gentrification, accept slow Negro genocide, accept ruthlessness, accept being or not being a human being for the entire duration of your life. These stinking ass crackers talking about a panther at Lorry Park Zoo. They talking about a panther at Lorry Park Zoo come up here and get more recognition than all the people sleeping out in the streets and step right outside this building and see the offensive nature of how people are living. I'm not begging for anything. I thank the people who stood up. That's real democracy at work. Who stood up to a clown, to the center clown, and the other clown that I'm gonna put a lawsuit on because of the conspiracies to have me arrested. Yes, you'll see my name with a lawsuit on it. You and you sitting in the center. You will see my name with a lawsuit on it and your name on it personally. We're not worried about the city of Tampa. We're worried about the conspiracy nonsense you're doing.
Thank you very much. Have a beautiful day. That concludes public comment. We are on to board administration appointments. Can I get a motion to move items 4, 5, and 6? We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, a second from Councilwoman Young. Did I hear that? Councilman Young, Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just wanted to say that I thought we were going to do these individually, but I just want to say that Tarah Bluma has been a really great addition to the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee. I was there on Friday, and it was a really good discussion, and she just dove right in. So So I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Councilman Maniscalco.
And I just want to say the same for Edwin Narain, Ed Narain, whom we all know. He's a wonderful person, and I think he
wasn't there, so
No, but he's gonna be fantastic. So I'm glad to see his name.
And may I, sir?
Councilman Briere.
Thank you. I wanted to salute again, and when board member or Councilwoman Young nominated the Honorable Ed Narain, just what a good guy and a great public servant and a real asset to this board. So just always a big fan of his.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any request for public for reconsideration of legislative matters? Hearing none. Committee of consent agenda. Councilman Vieira moves 7 through 14, please. We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilwoman Young, would you move 15 through 22?
I move items 15 through 22.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Young, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just wanted to say I'm thrilled that Cornerstone Kids is on here because they will get their matching grant from the county and be able to do a lot more good for a lot more kids.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Infrastructure Committee, Councilwoman Maniscalco, move 23 through 33, please.
I move items 23 through 33.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Finance Committee, Councilman Miranda, move 34 through 37.
34 through 37.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilman Carlson, would you move items 38 through 44 for the Development and Economic Opportunity Committee?
Move items 38 through
Second.
44.
We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilwoman Hurtak, would you move 45 through 48,
Yes,
please?
I move items 45
Second.
through 48.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Motion to set 49 and 50.
We have a motion to set the public hearings on 49 and 50 from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Move to open 10 and 10:30 public
We have a
hearing.
motion to open the 10 and 10:30 public hearings from Councilman Maniscalco. Was a second from Councilman Carlson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, 10 o'clock public hearings are now open. Councilwoman Hurtak.
I just wanted to say that for items 51 and 52, I was absent, but I have reviewed hearings and I'm ready
Okay.
to vote.
And Councilman Carlson, you were absent on 52. Same for you? Yes. Okay, very good. We're going to open item number 51. Staff, please. Who's going to present 51?
And while we're at it, if I may, the same thing obviously for item 55.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Yeah, I've got, well, I'll get to it when I get to it, yeah. Who's here for 51? Somebody. Dude, is any staff online? You? Yeah, okay, they're coming up. Thank you. What's the problem? Here we go. Okay, Ross. We
Sorry,
see
I
you.
had some technical difficulties there.
Okay, very good. 51, please.
Development Coordination, presenting file number VAC 2605 for second reading and adoption. I'm available if you have any questions.
Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Is there applicant? Is there an applicant for 51? Hearing none. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to item 51? Can I get a motion to close, please? We have a motion to close for Councilman Maniscalco, second for Councilman Viera. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilman Carlson, would you read 51, please?
Sure, move item number 51, file number VAC 26-05, ordinance being presented for second reading adoption, ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, vacating, closing, discontinuing, and banning a portion of Ross Avenue right-of-way located north of Palm Avenue, south of Park Avenue, east of North Boulevard, and west of Massachusetts Avenue as dedicated by the plats of Craig and Jameson Riverview subdivision and Dill subdivision in the City of Tampa, Hillsborough County, Florida, and as more fully described in section 2 hereof, subject to certain covenants, conditions, and restrictions as more particularly set forth herein, providing for enforcement and penalties for violations, providing for definitions, interpretations, and repealing conflicts, providing for severability, providing effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Carlson, second from Councilman Miranda. Please record your vote. Hold on for 1 second. Thank you. Okay.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 52, staff. Ross, are you doing this one? Oh, here we go. Okay.
Good morning, Mallory Lagasse, Real Estate Department. I'm here for a second reading and adoption for an honorary street naming in honor of Tony Garcia Jr. It is for the placement of an honorary street naming sign at the northwest corner of North Howard Avenue and West Cherry Street in Tampa, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Councilman Maniscalco.
Real quick, I'm just really happy to see this for Mr. Garcia, and I made a lot of comments on the first hearing and the first presentation, so it's well deserved. He did a lot for this community, and the effects are still being felt, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, very good. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? We have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Councilman Viera, would you please read item 52?
Yes, sir. Honored to read this for, as Councilman Maniscalco said, a great man and a great American and a great Tampano. Ordinance being presented for second reading adoption. Ordinance of the City of Tampa approving the placement of an honorary street renaming, or strike that, honorary street naming sign at the northwest corner of North Howard Avenue and West Cherry Street in Tampa, Florida, to honor Tony Garcia Jr., providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Viera, second from Councilman Maniscalco. Please record your vote.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. The rest of the public hearings are quasi-judicial proceedings that require you to be sworn in. If you're here to testify or speak to any of the items for the public hearings, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by our clerk.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 53, staff.
Good morning, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Item number 53 is REZ 2602. This item is a rezoning request for the property located at 1008 West LaSalle Street. The request is to rezone from RS 50, residential single family, to PD, planned development for residential single family semi-detached uses. At the March 12, 2026 public hearing, it was requested for the applicant to utilize the alley. The applicant made those changes, and I would like to show you the plan right now. The applicant did utilize the alley here, and instead of, here's LaSalle, he had the entrances off of LaSalle, and now they have the entrance off of the alley as requested by council. And this application is before you for a second reading. Revisions have been completed and certified plans have been submitted to the clerk's office. I'm available if you have any questions.
Does council have any questions? I want to disclose as a little bit ex parte thing. Between the times we've heard this and yesterday, I had it with myself and my legislative aide. I did a site visit because I was curious about these alleys. I drove through the alleys and with my own observations just to disclose that. So for all of these, I wanted to be able to understand what was happening with these alleys. So just, again, just for clarity, make sure that everybody understood that I actually went out there with my own eyes to look at the alleyways. Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Applicant?
Good morning, City Council. James Lascara, applicant. We were able to make all requested revisions between first and second reading. And we're encouraged to receive initial approval at first reading. I'm available for any questions should you have any.
Council have any questions? Hearing none. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak to this item? Okay, we have a motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. I would like to say first, thank you for accommodating council's request to flip this. I know that's not an easy endeavor, and it's, it costs you money, but I think that using that alley was important, and I appreciate you working with council to do that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda. Oh, sorry. Yep. Yeah. We have a motion to close. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Did we ask for a vote? Yeah. Okay. Just for clarification, anybody in the public wish to speak this item? Okay. We have the motion to close. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Councilwoman Young, would you please read item 53?
File number REZ 26-02. We're doing a resolution, right?
No.
Where are we? Oh, sorry.
The
Okay.
ordinance, and after the
Yes.
ordinance passes,
Yes. File number REZ-26-02, ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1008 West LaSalle Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family to PD planned development residential single family semi-detached, providing an effective date.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilwoman Young. We have a second from Councilman Maniscalco. Please record your vote. Did it record?
Yeah. Motion passed with Carlson voting no.
Okay. Now I'll move the resolution.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Young, a second from Councilman Maniscalco to move the attached resolution. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, sorry. Councilman Carlson voted no, so would you announce that vote, please? For the resolution.
Resolution passes with Carlson voting no.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Young, or Councilwoman Hurtak.
That's okay.
You are young.
Yeah, appreciate that. I know we normally do it right after approvals. Is it okay to approve these things now? The staff report things, 59, 60, 61?
Yeah, let's get through these hearings first, yeah. Okay, so item number 54, staff. We're going back to first.
Good morning, Stephanie Pope, Development Coordination. Item number 54 is REZ 2603. This item is a rezoning request for the property located at 1307 West LaSalle Street. The request is to rezone from RS50, residential single family, to PD for residential single family semi-detached uses. Council, you may recall at the March 12th, 2026 public hearing, council requested the applicant to change the vehicle access from the front along West LaSalle Street to provide access from the alley to the rear. The applicant agreed to make those changes between first and second reading. Since that hearing, the applicant has changed their mind and decided to go with their original design, which has front-load access from West LaSalle Street. I've provided you with the site plan of record, which shows the front access as on the original site plan. Since no change was made, instead of this being a second reading, this would now be a first reading. I have the plan to show you, and I've also passed it out so that you can see what the original site plan proposed. Here's the alley, and here is West LaSalle, and this has the access coming from West LaSalle still. This is a vehicle access to the units is designed through new concrete driveway with access from West LaSalle Street. There's an existing sidewalk adjacent to West LaSalle with pedestrian access. And the applicant is here and can explain why they are reverting back to the original plan, and I am available if you have any other questions.
Thank you. Does council have any questions? Hearing none. Applicant, please.
Good morning, City Council. James Lascara, owner and applicant for RZ 2603. We're encouraged by staff's finding of consistency for this proposal and appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. Following council's recommendation and request from the first hearing, we agreed to assess the property for using the alley for vehicle access. In the process, we identified some key information that warrants bringing this back to city council for first hearing consideration. To refresh ourselves, I would like to first review what code says on the issue. If an existing lot, it's kind of small, sorry. If an existing lot is adjacent to an open and used public alley, vehicular access to the site shall be provided from the alley as the primary vehicular access point, provided it meets minimum standards referenced in 27 Tech 283.12. Additionally, I want to note staff's finding on this particular alley, and that was an email from transportation saying they are unpaved and show no apparent evidence of regular vehicular use. Because of these existing conditions, I recommend the city support the applicant's request for a waiver of the alley access requirement for these sites. I'd like to share what we found upon additional time spent on deeper examination of the site and having an opportunity to obtain additional information that was simply not available to us at the previous first hearing. In doing so, I will show a few reasons why this alley does not meet the criteria for open and used public alley as described in the City of Tampa Code Section 27 Tech 241 in an earnest gesture to propose projects that are not just thoughtful for our neighborhoods, but also buildable. The alley is in fact not a viable solution for this proposed development. We referenced the Kimley Horn Alley study, which was freshly published in October 2025. Luckily, this
Yeah, push it up a little bit more.
Oh.
Just in case we're missing something.
Sorry.
And it's not up on the screen.
Okay, thank you. We referenced this Kimley Horn Alley study, of which you see a screenshot here, which was freshly published in October 2025. Luckily, the specific alley that in question was assessed in that study, and here are the findings. The alley was assessed as non-vehicular in the study. The alley is noted as semi-obstructed with less than 14 feet of width as platted, is not used for anyone on the block, noting the private use reference, and has encroachments along both of the sides and the height. Items I've circled in red here. I'd like to note also that this study was done by an objective third party on behalf of the city and is in fact published on the West Tampa CRA webpage hosted by the city as a resource. Additionally, we coordinated with FDOT for this area's right-of-way map. Which I've shown here. The area in question is circled and enlarged. On the zoomed-in version, the area you see in red is FDOT's ownership as part of I-275. In yellow is the alley. Here's the issue. The area that adjoins the alley is the edge of what is reserved by FDOT for I-275 use. Would you like me to leave this up longer? Okay.
No, it's good.
We were able to confer with transportation staff on this exact finding, and I'd like to read their response. Hi, James. Yes, I see what you're referencing. The section you circled appears to show that the existing FDOT right-of-way cuts into that area, so there does not appear to be a clean way to extend alley improvements from 1307 LaSalle west to Oregon as a typical city alley connection. In other words, that tie-in looks blocked by the existing FDOT right-of-way configuration. And that was this week. We were able to identify that there is no curb cut where the alley joins Willow. And now, previously I was referring to the west portion of the alley. Now I'm referring to the east portion of the alley. So there's no curb cut where the alley joins Willow. And I'm unsure, I would argue that it'd be hard to make a case that the alley is used if there's no curb cut supporting that it is used. How can we consider an alley to be considered open and used if there's no curb cut for it? Lastly, we engaged a surveyor to obtain a complete, updated, and certified survey that contained all the tree, topography, and boundary information needed for this particular alley. This was completed just last week. I'm going to zoom into particular portions of this survey. I have separated the survey portions up in two parts, the area to the east and the area to the west. I would like to look at the survey to the east first because it's important we understand the boundary lines of how the alley is actually platted and what area of land it's really referencing.
Can you move it up a little, please?
Move it up. Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
The area below, the portion shaded in blue, shows the boundaries of the alley. What you'll see is that all the trees are positioned in the middle of the alley and further within the alley than originally understood, resulting in the actual space that's passable being far less than where the actual alley boundaries are, with areas of less than 6 feet of passable space. What you'll note is that, as is right now to the east of the site, there are a total of 13 trees blocking the alley that are in the middle of the alley. And of those trees, 10 are oaks and 3 are palms. I've shown this view overlaid with the survey. I've shown the view of where the alley area faces Willow with the edge of the alley marked where the plat line lies. The area shown here would entail less than 6 feet of passable space. I want to make it clear that it's not the fence. The fence is built more northerly than the actual plat line of the alley lies, and that is FDOT space for I-275. For the alley portion of the west, there are 3 conflicts. The previously mentioned FDOT I-275 area. There's a preservation quality grand live oak in which the proposed alley improvement would encroach closer than 6 feet to the trunk and well within a minimum 15-foot protective root zone. And there's an FDOT fence in the middle of the alley that obstructs the alley multiple feet, having a less than 8-foot passable section from what is platted. Here's that image overlay where the alley would be. That's the preservation quality grand live oak. It's a 35-inch diameter breast height size tree. And then here's the fence encroachment. I went out and measured. This was this past week I received those measurements. The encroachment from one side of the fence is set over 7 feet. The encroachment on another is over 5 feet on the other side of it. Here is my measurement where the fence encroaches into the alley now. The area marked with the dashed yellow is the edge of where the alley plat. In other words, this view is looking south, and southerly, that is the property line. So if they wanted to move their fence further in, they could move it about 1.5 feet there. Generally, while we are not opposed to using the alleys in general, as we have done in previous proposals where the alleys were demonstrated to be open and used in accordance with the West Tampa overlay guidelines, I'll mention a few specific projects we've done this already: LaSalle, Nassau, and Arch, multiple on each street. In this case, it is simply not a feasible solution given the current constraints. We've explored all reasonable alternatives, and at this point, there are no other viable options. As a result, without the waiver for street-facing parking, this proposal becomes an unbuildable product. For this demonstrated information that the alley adjacent to 1307 West LaSalle cannot be considered open and used per City of Tampa code, we'd like to bring the proposed project back for first reading consideration. To conclude, this was a 4-unit site that historically consisted of 2 buildings with 2 units each. We're proposing to keep it 4 units of 2 buildings with 2 units each, so it's not an increase in density from what existed before. We received numerous letters of support from nearby neighbors with no written opposition. I think genuineness, there's something to be said about genuineness, and any of our proposals I never want to come across as disingenuous. We had the time to evaluate and gain more information on a key aspect of which we would have had no way of knowing before. That is the reason for bringing this back around to first reading consideration. Respectfully request your approval for this proposal, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Like I said, I did a site visit yesterday. I have a large SUV. I was able to pull, but I think part of the information that you disclosed today is new information. That's the FDOT easement. I think that's, of everything that you've presented today, I think that's probably the game changer as far as my vote or my support on this project, or is this support? But yeah, okay, very good. Public comments, anybody in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Ms. Sanchez?
Yes, I'm a neighbor. I live off.
Oh, yeah, hold on. Come on to the front, and you start with your name, and then you have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name's Nicholas Cuchilla. I live off Arch Street, just a street south of LaSalle. Walk my dog. I have an alley myself. Not a big fan of them because no one uses them in my street. So I'm definitely a big supporter of James and what they're doing in the area, and it's pretty consistent through all the development that's going on. So all in all, I don't think the alley, especially Arch Street and LaSalle, aren't being really used, even though they are open. So supporter of the development.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate
Thank you for coming out. Ms. Sanchez, start with your name, please.
Good morning, City Council. I wasn't planning to speak on this, but I want you to know.
Start with your name.
No.
Start with your name.
I'm sorry?
We all know who you are, but you have to tell us who you are.
My name is Sandy Sanchez. I didn't plan to speak on this, but you all know how involved I am with the West Tampa overlay and with the alleys. We understand that there are situations where the alley is not plausible, and we expect mobility to allow that waiver to go through. This is a perfect example that it should not go through. The evidence is there, and it should not happen. My concern is mobility is not consistent with what they say and what they do. And that's one of the things on the new land development plan that I have requested, that there are clear and concise standards for something being clear and something being used, usable, or was used. Those are the concerns. There are problems. For example, this developer built a home at 2711 West State Street. He did what he was supposed to do. He built a 4-bedroom townhouse with a 1-car garage, but nevertheless, there is not room for that car to make a turn. That should not have happened. And those are the inconsistencies that I look at when I talk about the alleys and if they should or should not happen. We know that it shouldn't be all the time. We tried to tell Land Development Code that 2 years ago, and those of us who worked in the overlay and worked on the alleys were supposed to meet again, and we never did. Because we understand we don't expect all of them to be approved or denied. We just want fairness. This is legitimate. This should not happen. And I just wanted to support him to understand that it's not just because I think we should use alleys. I just think mobility should be consistent. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McElhaney, start with your name, please.
Good morning, Council. Steve McElhaney. The problem is, Sandy pointed out, the code for the overlay says shall. It doesn't say may. It doesn't even give you an explanation about what do you do when the technical standards conflict with the must use the alley. And so frequently when we come before you with projects in this area, we have to ask for that waiver. And then when you get into the design side of the urban design side, they want you to design something with that access on the alley, even though it's not practical, not usable, and not even possible. So, you know, when you want us to remove these waivers and exceptions, you have to look at what is forcing that to happen, and it's the code. Several years ago, I tried to change that portion of the code, and representatives from the West Tampa district came and opposed it, and so we withdrew that request. So now you're back in the same position as you were before, when you have the requirement to use an alley that doesn't meet technical standards, that is obstructed and is unusable, or you have collapsed water and sewer lines in the alley that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars that you have to fix. And it simply makes the housing that you're asking to be included to be more affordable, it makes it unaffordable. So anyway, I just echo what the others have said. You have impractical requirements that are contained in the code that don't match your technical standards, and it needs to be looked at and revised. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McElhaney. Anybody else in the public wish to speak to this item? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to close? Do you want rebuttal?
Yes, please. James LaScara, the applicant. I live 2 blocks away, walk the street every day. I have never seen somebody in this alley. I've never seen a vehicle in this alley. I know no neighbors who have mentioned seeing anyone in this alley. Being somebody who lives in the neighborhood, it's clear to me that this alley is not used. And we have used previous alleys right in this area. 1320 Arch, 1318 Arch, 1112 LaSalle are all 3 projects that had demonstrated open and used capacity, and we use those. I don't have a reservation of doing it. I have a reservation of doing it when it doesn't comply with the code guidelines, and we might get approved a project we cannot execute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, second from Councilman Miranda? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, so I'm going to try not to provide testimony in this case, but again, like I said earlier, I think the evidence that you submitted about the FDOT easement is a critical piece of evidence that wasn't submitted to us in the first hearing on this issue. I will say that the encroachment, I did observe the encroachment from that light pole, the fence that was in the alley, but that being said, I think we have to divide this into 2 different things. One, the issue that's before us today, and then as we move forward, I urge our land development people and that are interpreting this code. I believe this council has been very clear, and of course the overlay district specifically has been very clear about the intent of the city of Tampa of repurposing and utilizing these alleys. And if that alley is in fact usable, I think that we need to enforce that. And I think there seems to have been a shift in our land and development code in their interpretation of use versus usable. And I think if an alley is usable, we should be using the dang alley. So I think so anybody that's listening, Jonathan and everybody else, if an alley is usable, they should be using it. And the code, I have the code in front of me, it seems to be very clear, and the shall is correct. If we have a usable alley, we shall be using that alley. But I think that the evidence that was submitted, even though I could drive my SUV, larger SUV, through that alley yesterday when I did it, but I think the FDOT easement is a really important piece of evidence that we did not have on this first one. So I'll be voting to move this to second as submitted with the access on LaSalle instead of the alley, but that was my input. Councilwoman Hurtak.
It was my turn, so I was gonna read it.
You gonna read it? Okay, I didn't know if you wanted to
Anybody
comment. Okay. Councilwoman Hurtak, go ahead.
I'm also a giant proponent of alleys, especially in West Tampa, but it very clearly is an instance where the alley is not usable, and thank you so much for bringing the information, and thank you so much for the residents that spoke out. File number REZ 2603, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 1307 West LaSalle Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS50 residential single family to PD planned development residential single family semi-detached, providing an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak. We have a second from Councilman Maniscalco. Please record your
No,
vote.
no, this is a first reading. We have to go back to voice vote.
Okay. Well, we could record the vote, but since he's got it loaded, but, okay, all those in favor say, okay, yes, ma'am.
Oh, with I'm sorry, with the changes that need to be made between first and second reading, accepting the new site plan. Is that good? Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak with the changes, with the new site plan. We have a second from Councilman Maniscalco. We can just do voice. Is that okay, Q?
Mm-hmm.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Sorry. Please call the vote with Councilman Carlson voting no.
Motion passes with Carlson voting no.
Okay. Yeah, very good. We're going to take a
second reading and adoption will be on May 7, 2026 at 10 a.m. Old City Hall, 3rd floor, 315 East Canadian Boulevard, Tampa, Florida, 33602.
We're going to take a physiological break here real quick. Ms. Johnson, Velez? Let's take a 5-minute break, 11:17. We'll be back at 11:17. Full count.
Miranda. Maniscalco. Hurtak. Young. Vieira. Carlson. Clendenin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, item number 55. Staff, please. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Item 55 is REZ 26-29. It's returned to council today because at its last hearing on April 9th, it failed to get the required 4 votes to take official action. It got a 3-2 vote to approve, with Carlson and Miranda voting no, and Vieira being absent at vote, and Clendenin being absent. The hearing was reopened for the opportunity for the council members who are absent to review the record, and if they have any questions, to raise them at this time. Otherwise, council, that being said, if you're prepared to vote, I'm going to ask each of you if you're prepared to vote. Having reviewed the record, then the hearing could be closed, and the motion, whatever it is, can be read again and passed.
Okay. I have reviewed, I've watched the hearing, and I am familiar with the issues, and I'm ready to vote. Councilman Vieira, I believe you said the same?
Yes, sir. I was. I'm laughing because I had to leave last minute because of something with my son in his car. But yeah, I'm ready to go and everything. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay. Can I get do we have to open up for public comment again? No? Okay.
Unless there are questions specifically by the members who are absent, there's no reason to take additional testimony. It's first reading. If it does pass, just the public should be aware they would come back for a second public hearing, an adoption public hearing, announced by the clerk.
Okay, very good. Motion to close from, who was it?
Me.
Councilman Hurtak, second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Who we left off with you reading the last one?
I know, but I have something to say.
Okay, Councilwoman Hurtak.
You know, every now and again, I have a vote where I go home and I'm woken up in the middle of the night because I didn't do the right thing. And for me, it's not the plan development part, it's the alley part. And I can't do it. So my vote will be no when it was yes last time. So for me, it is just simply an alley issue. It is not a PD issue. I know that was something raised by the public, but my issue to this is the alley. Thank you.
Councilwoman Young?
The same thing with me, and just overall, I mean, we talked about it earlier, but I really would, whatever, we can set it, but to have a conversation about the alleys and the use of them. So, but I think same thing, just simply because of the alley, use of the alley. Yes, we close it.
I don't know whether the public hearing needs to be reopened for this, but I might as well just, could we open the public hearing?
Can I get a motion to reopen the public hearing? Councilman Maniscalco, reopen the public hearing. Second from Councilman Miranda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. Mr. Shelby.
Just a reminder, council, there have been written communications, as there are in a lot of cases, that may have been accepted and made available for public inspection. The issue is that I'd like you to receive and file them at this time.
We have a motion to file a written communication. Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Now, before we close, the information that was divulged from Councilwoman Hurtak and Councilwoman Young, shouldn't that be on the record during the open public hearing? No? Okay.
Because
you say she's on new, because
No, for me, it's not new evidence. It's just I slept on it and I made the wrong decision. It's a reconsideration for me. And I mean, sometimes we change between first and second reading, and I would have changed even if this was a second reading. Like for me, it was just the alley issue. We had a lot of conversations about alleys, and alleys to me are just, they're really important, and this just wasn't the right thing to do.
If you would, Councilwoman, for the purposes of the record, an explanation to rely or refresh the record with what is the competent substantial evidence that you had heard that you're basing your vote upon, because you are changing your vote, and I just want to make sure that that is clear, that you have a basis for changing your vote.
Yes, it was the photos and the ability for folks, for people to drive in the alley.
Okay, and also I want to ask if there have been any ex parte verbal communications with anybody outside this hearing. If anybody has any, please disclose them now.
No.
I actually did a site visit and with the alley as well, so I.
You did do a site visit with the alley as well, and do you wish to disclose that on the record?
Yes.
Okay. And what, if anything, because are you planning on stating what it is that you saw that would influence your decision? And I just want to share with you that if you do, I believe that the applicant may have the opportunity to rebut.
Okay.
Yes, certainly.
Well, I don't believe I need to provide estimate. I won't provide testimony in the case. I'll just say that I did have a site visit.
Well, the question is that does it have an impact on your vote?
Yes, so the site visit is that it's a passable alley. But I was able to drive through the alley and it's a passable alley.
Okay, well, that's on notice now in the record, and that's fine, and that's clear, and that's what the purpose of the disclosure of an ex parte communication is. My recommendation is that you give the applicant an opportunity to address this before you close the public hearing.
Okay.
Based on what we've
So,
disclosed.
based on the testimony that I provided applicant, would you like to provide testimony?
Well, it's not
on
really
this?
testimony, it's really disclosure of a site visit.
Right, okay, very good. Anybody, would you like to?
Good afternoon, council, or good morning, council. James LaScaria, applicant. I have an entire presentation planned, but I get the sense it's not what we want to dive into. I'm required to abide by code. It's for a developer, it's our guidebook. And I understand the intent of the West Tampa overlay. This project would mark our 12th development within the West Tampa overlay. When it comes to code, I try to be as black and white as possible. Understand that there's shades of gray in there. And going back to what the code says, if it's an existing lot is adjacent to an open and used public alley, vehicular access shall be provided from the alley. So I think the challenge that we have is really time. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So I've walked this site several times each month since November. So I've been there probably about 8 times since November. In January, when I was walking the site to get photos, I was in the alley. A neighbor was surprised to see me in the alley, and I surprised her, and she said, "I've never seen somebody walking in the alley." So these are photos. Oh, sorry, these are photos from February. So you have overgrowth, debris not from our site, just on either side. You have trees encroaching among the alley. These are photos that I took at one of our recent site visits, and this is current as of February. And so I believe the nice woman provided testimony a week ago saying that she called in a crew to clean up the alley, and I guess the question I find myself asking is, why do we need to clean up an alley that's open and used? If it's used, why would it need cleaning up? And where I get my information for that is the code book. It says that it should be open and used. Again, clearly understand the West Tampa overlay guidelines, not opposed to abiding by those guidelines. I think where it makes sense. Respectfully, I don't think this is the case. We engaged with neighbors, and I would like to mention a signed petition from 5 of the neighbors, all of which live on that exact street. Not different areas of the block, but on that exact street. Here's the signed, here are their 5 signed signatures. Some of these neighbors have been in the neighborhood for many decades, their whole lives. So I'd like to read that now. To whom it may concern, this is from last week. To whom it may concern, I'm a longtime resident of this neighborhood. Here, I'll post here. I'm a longtime resident of this neighborhood, and I'm an active member of the community. I'm writing to share my perspective regarding the proposed development at 2414 West State Street. I live on the same block. The alley south of State Street, due west of Armenia Ave, has not been in active use for over 25 years. Based on my long-term experience in the area and living in this community, utilizing this alley would be inappropriate in this area of the neighborhood. The alley is neither open for use nor used, and all vehicles access parking for the houses from the street, not the alley. The alley is not in accessible condition. We appreciate the developer taking time to meet with members of the neighborhood and discuss any concerns. While we support the proposed development overall, we do not support the use or reopening of the alley. Despite being an alley that is not open as well as unused, allowing vehicles access through the alley would introduce increased traffic safety concerns, particularly where it connects to Armenia Ave. We feel confidently this would negatively impact us and surrounding neighbors. For these reasons we respectfully request the alley remain unused as it historically has been.
Pause 1 second. Mr. Shelby, would you remind council about evidence of petitions, signed petitions?
Though they don't constitute competent substantial evidence, you could take it for what it is, which is the opinion of the people who do, but there is really, it's a petitioner's case, but the courts have found that petitions do not constitute in and of itself competent substantial evidence.
And the evidence required in a quasi-judicial procedure is competent substantial evidence?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, continue.
Okay, thank you. One last point that I would like to make is traffic safety in terms of where the alley abuts Armenia. So I did a little bit of research with this with the Drivers Research Institute. So the speed limit is 40 miles per hour on that road, and the rate of speed in feet per second is 58.7 feet per second. So we get into a scenario, because this is not yet constructed, but it's approved for a PD with a 9-foot setback here at this boundary. The line of sight is not greater than 100 feet to see this car. There's street parking marked in blue. By the time the vehicle in B has to make a decision to pull out, it's insufficient time pulling out of the alley, and there will be a collision. There's not a vehicle that can stop in time. And then in the inverse manner, when a vehicle B is traveling eastward, and vehicle A would be pulling into the alley, then they'd be coming around this blind corner here, and there's a high potential for collision there as well. Lastly, I'd like to just show a photo of a utility pole that is in the apron of the alley drive. Now, this itself on its own is not, I don't think, very substantial, but it is further evidence that justifies that this alley is not used. I'd have a hard time pulling into that, making a right turn from the road.
Okay. Questions for you. Because I've disclosed that I did visit this, obviously those pictures that you have are not representational of what the alley looks like today because of the cleanup. It's a wide open alley that's even has pavement in it. I mean, it's literally a wide open alley today. I guess we can probably concede that. I don't know how it got there, I don't know, but the alley that I drove down is a paved, clean, no weeds, no debris, no nothing, just open wide alley. Is that?
Are you asking him to address that?
Yes, yeah.
Sir, with respect, I have to ask myself why that might be. As an applicant, I'm not able to go to the site every single week to get new photos. And so to me, it's a logical conclusion that people who might oppose a proposal like this intentionally went in and cleaned it up to demonstrate that, oh, look, it is in use, when every evidence leading up to that is that it's not.
Okay. I have a question for staff, because I have a code that's West Tampa overlay, section 27-241, 2.5.1, or 2.5.I, excuse me, that says driveways and alley access to all residential development shall be configured to minimize driveway proliferation, limit additional conflict points between vehicles and pedestrians, and prioritize safety of pedestrians. I, if an existing lot is adjacent to an open and used public alley, vehicular access to the site shall be provided from the alley as primary vehicular access point, provided it meets minimum standards referenced in 27-283.12 off-street parking space standards. What is the discrepancy between what I'm reading here and what we see in this case?
Well, we do have the memo from Urban Design.
Start with your name.
Oh, my apologies. Good morning, Council. Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. Urban Design addressed this particular section of the code in their memo for this application. Based on their review of the application and a visit by Mobility, they support the waiver on the part of the applicant.
Okay. Mr. Shelby.
And just, Council, to circle back to your previous question, that report does constitute competent substantial evidence.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Young.
More so of a statement. I guess, and I mean, we kind of mentioned earlier, but, you know, the difference between, you know, what is currently being used, what, you know, is usable, but, you know, maybe it just needs, you know, the grass to be cut, but it is able to be used. Like, I think we really need to, and again, this is probably another conversation, but if we have the West Tampa overlay, we have this, you know, an alley study by Kimley Horn, then we have the code. I mean, I think we really need to figure out what is, you know, we need to really drill down, okay, this is usable, this is used, you know, like, because for us, well, I don't know for us, but for me, you know, I want to have all the information, and if we're saying we're using the West Tampa overlay, but then we go back and say, well, no, this isn't usable, but then you can't actually drive your car down there, I mean, that, we have to have some kind of continuity or something.
Mr. Shelby?
Councilwoman, could I ask specifically, I've heard the terms usable and used both stated. I also heard the code read. Would we please have the staff say exactly what the standard is under the code? Is it?
I just read it.
I know you just read it, but do you want to put it down on the screen, or do you want to, that's you reading the code. That's not competent substantial evidence. I would prefer to have the staff expert tell what is the standard.
Do you guys have it in front of you? I have what I have if you.
And then, and the reason I bring that up is because I want to understand, you know, the West Tampa overlay was what the, you know, community wants to see. So I want to be sensitive to that as well. So I'm just.
Okay, so here we have it here. Everybody can see that?
So what?
Can you read that further into the record for us, please?
Christopher DeMonch, Development Coordination. We have on the overhead here a section of the code stating if an existing lot is adjacent to an open and used public alleyway, vehicular access to the site shall be provided from the alley as the primary vehicular access point, provided it meets minimum standards referenced in section 27283.12 off-street parking space standards.
And may I inquire, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Shelby.
Within that code, where is the word usable used? Because I've heard that expressed. The word usable as opposed to used.
Is it, if I may ask, when was?
Where is the word usable?
Has staff used?
No, I'm saying where in the code relative to this? I just want to know, because I just want the record to be clear, because it was read into the record, but I'd like your testimony to be clear as to what is the standard according to the code.
I think, LaShawn Doc.
Good morning, Council. LaShawn Doc, Development Coordination. So the word usable is not specific in this overlay language. So it says if it's an existing lot adjacent to an open and used alley, public alley. And it just states open and used. And so mobility goes out, takes a look, and then they determine not only is it open, and this is speaking to vegetation, overgrowth, is it being used? So they're trying to make a determination as to if it is used. Are vehicles utilizing that alley? And that's when they determine it is in fact used. Or if they don't see any evidence that vehicles are utilizing that alley, they determine that it is not used. So while it may be open, it just may not be used. And in that case, it is up to the applicant. The applicant can either design their product to access the alley, or they can request staff to take a determination of this alley. Is it open and used? And if staff determines it is not used, it's not both, then it is on council. Council can ask the applicant to provide it, and the applicant has to agree to provide that access, or they would go by code.
Thank you.
Okay, are you satisfied with that answer? Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, does the council have any other questions on this item? We have a motion to close from Councilman Bureau, second from? Second. Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. I think you're thinking about public comment, but Mr. Shelby, would you like to address that, please?
Well, the hearing's closed. Do you want to address the public comment? Or? She's good.
Okay, very good.
She's declined.
Okay.
What? No, I'm going to open the public hearing to inquire whether public comment is, to inquire whether public comment is sufficient at this point. Because I might as well just tell you what
What is your legal opinion on the public comment? Is it different than what we briefed?
public, if there is somebody here who is in the noticed area who received notice as an affected person and feels that they need to have to speak at this time, then I would suggest that they have the opportunity. They would then have, because they're in the noticed area, then they would have greater standing to be able to get due process in this case. So if someone is if you want to make inquiry, if somebody's in the noticed area and received notice, then I would suggest that they be allowed to speak.
Is there anybody in the public that is within the noticed area? Hearing none. We had a motion to close. We had a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, very good. Councilman Maniscalco, is that up to you? Okay.
All right, I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 2414 West State Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classification RM16, residential multifamily, to PD plan development, residential single-family, semi-detached, providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco. Is there a second?
Second for a vote.
Okay, we have a second from Councilman Vieira. All those, let's do a roll call, please.
Hurtak,
No.
Young,
No.
Vieira,
Yes.
Carlson, Miranda,
No.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Clendenin.
No.
Motion fails with Hurtak, Young, Carlson, Miranda, and Clendenin voting no.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Now, the motion failed to get 4 requisite votes, am I correct?
Correct.
Mr. Clerk?
He read it.
Yeah, he already read it.
Now, what that means is that no official action has been taken on this application.
There's the lawyer language, okay? Anything else you want to add to the record?
We have to have a vote tonight.
Oh, that's what you're asking for? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Who would like to make that motion?
Of course, that requires you making findings as to competent substantial evidence, the basis for your decision.
This sounds like a Councilwoman Hurtak motion, no? Okay, who would like to make this motion, please? I need a motion of denial with competent substantial evidence.
If somebody wishes me to provide them, for refreshing your recollection, with Section 27-136, the purpose of a plan development, and Section 27-139, the waivers, if council members would like the opportunity to take a look at those before they make their motion.
Is there also a bonus provision in that too?
Is there a bonus provision?
Yeah, but that's not relevant.
Yeah.
That's not-
Okay.
Certainly the bonus provision would not pass if this does not pass. If this is denied, the bonus provision would not be acted upon. Am I correct? Okay.
I mean, if no one's going to make a motion to deny, I can give it a shot, even though I just read it, but.
Councilman Maniscalco, you
Okay,
recognize the
so
motion.
I make a motion to deny item 55, which is RZ 26-29, and we did hear about the alleys, and people had to change, no, huh?
Is there a waiver on the alleys?
No, there is a waiver on the site. There is a waiver on the alleys?
Which
Okay.
then, in that case, I just want to refer you then to the waiver criteria, which is.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Can I ask staff, can you restate the waivers?
There's one waiver.
Well, just done. Okay. Can we get a motion to reopen the hearing, please?
I have a question.
We have a motion from Councilman Miranda, second from?
Vieira.
Councilman Vieira, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Councilman Vieira.
I'm just, and I don't want to, I have a question in terms of protecting the record, and I get Councilman Maniscalco as being collegial and just trying to move this forward.
I'm just trying to make the motion.
That's what I'm saying.
Nobody raised their hand.
If he just voted for it, can he make a motion? I mean, in other words, if this has life beyond this, would that be problematic, or?
It's not normal, but he can.
Pardon?
It's not normal, but he can, right?
I'm just, you know,
And I know what you're
I don't
doing.
want to have to do it all the time, but I'll, that's fine.
Okay. Yes,
I
sir.
just want to
Could you please, for the record, state the waivers?
Christopher DeMonte, Development Coordination. We have one waiver with this application. It's the Section 27-241. This is a request for vehicular access for units 1 and 2 to be provided from West State Street and then in lieu of the alleyway.
Okay.
There it is.
And there it is. Okay, very good. Can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
We have a motion to close. Councilman Vieira, second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
Just no one else really want to do it.
I'll do it.
And
That's the motion,
and that
or
was-
that's-
That was the waiver, so when you, for the competent substantial.
What are you
evidence.
referencing, Mr. Chairman?
The waiver that he just wrote.
Okay.
She wanted the competent
Oh, you
substantial
mean
evidence.
the
For the
reciting
number.
the
Yeah.
number?
Correct.
Okay, so. Make a motion to deny file number REZ 26-29 on the basis of the waiver for, the base of the waiver 27-241.
Second.
Is that
And-
sufficient?
No, actually, I'm going to ask you to cite to the waiver criteria and cite the section on the page that has the waivers, that has the section code in it, and what competent substantial evidence you would say supports that. I would also refer you to the general criteria, for plan development, which is 27-136, which is on the reverse side. And that's also both in the staff report and reference.
Take your time, read through it. Just let us know when you're ready. You can take as much time as you want.
And council, just know that when the motion is on the floor, council members always, and I'm not saying in this particular case, I'm saying always have the opportunity to support the motion with the competent substantial evidence that is in the record that hasn't been raised as part of the motion that you feel is relevant and would support the decision. It doesn't have to come from just the maker of the motion.
Understood.
Okay. Mr. Shelby,
Yes, Councilwoman.
so I know why I'm denying, but I need assistance with deciding which one. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Throw it out and we can help you.
Yes.
Okay, so denying because the,
Cite the section and then the number.
okay,
So
because section
section
27-139, based on the criteria,
Which number? Two?
interview the record of the property review. I'm assuming so. I'm not sure which one that fits under. I'm just being honest. I know why,
so-
but I need assistance
Councilwoman
with
Hurd, if you wanna help, you wanna
which
help
one
out.
it is.
Yeah,
Which
yeah, so
words?
you have to kind of look at the waivers as backwards.
Okay.
So it is unique and therefore, or it isn't unique and doesn't need waivers. So, you could say that, the waiver is not in harmony and serves the general
Alright,
intent
got
and
it.
purpose of this chapter.
Got it.
So I would say, 27-139 subsection 3. So you can just say
Got
you
it.
accept that.
Okay.
And the design of the proposed development is not unique and is not in need of waivers, subsection 1.
Got it.
That would be enough.
Okay. That's what I needed. I didn't, thank you very much. Okay, so,
So you read
And-
this, and then read what she said. Okay.
okay.
And if I can, also then you have the 27-136 criteria in the code, because this is a planned development.
Okay.
So if there's anything in 27-136 that you want to place into the record that would support your position, based on the competent substantial evidence as you find it, my suggestion is that you do the best you can and attempt to do that.
I'll do,
Why don't you start with this, and the other council persons can help you out.
okay.
Yeah, all you
Yeah.
can just do is say that you accept my recommendation.
I
She
accept
doesn't
the
have to read it
recommendation.
and do it.
Very good, okay. So we have a motion for denial.
He's gonna do that.
Okay.
She already read her.
I'm just saying, we have a
Okay.
motion to denial from Councilwoman Young,
And you seconded
and
it?
then, and a second from Councilwoman Hurtak, Councilman Maniscalco.
And then I would add, it does not promote and encourage of 27-136-6, does not promote and encourage development where appropriate in location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding impacted neighborhoods, built environment, and existing geography.
Okay, Councilwoman Young, would you accept that amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So that was a friendly amendment. We have a motion with the friendly amendment from Councilwoman Young. We have a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Council Clerk, would you please call that?
The announce.
Announced.
Motion carries with Viera voting no.
Okay, very good. Okay, we are done with this one. So it is 11:52. We do not have much business in front of us. Is there any objection just pushing through?
No, I don't want, I
Well-
want to break for lunch. We have to come back at 1:30.
We have to come back at 1:30,
1:30.
but we can get through some of these.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, with regard to the consent docket, we had completed the consent docket, but there are items that do not require staff reports. According to my,
We already went through those.
Yeah.
that passed already?
Yes, no,
We
but,
did-
no, that's what we're about
That's
to do
what we're
right
about to do right
now.
now.
That's,
Okay. Councilwoman Hurtak, I will hear a motion.
well, I think we should probably split these up because I know we had different votes. So item 59, 60, and 61. I move items 59, 60, and 61.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Oh, I don't.
May I move items 62 and 63?
We have a motion, okay, we have a motion from Councilman Maniscalco, a second from Councilman Vieira. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
And I move item 66. Isn't that the one we said we were gonna?
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a motion from
Mo-
Councilman
Motion
Hurtak.
receive and file.
No, if I may, I need to speak on that.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay, Councilman Vieira, go ahead.
So, yeah, because I am making a motion on this, actually, so let me give you all the background on this and everything like that. So this deals with the Public Safety Master Plan, something that we've been going on for a very long time in Tampa City Council with the administration on. And so I had proposed an idea to get legal vetting on to do an ordinance that essentially mandates a proper public safety master plan to be done every certain number of years, both for police as well as fire. This caught the interest of the administration. We've had a number of meetings on it, and ultimately we had a meeting yesterday with council there. We had Mr. Scott Steady there, Mr. Carl Brody there, we had Chief Tripp there, we had Chief Burkhaw there, we had a number of other folks there. And ultimately what we came up with is a groundwork, and I'm going to continue this until May 7th, and I'll talk about moving some stuff there so that it fits pursuant to our rules, is that what we're looking at doing, it appears that this is going to be the resolution, is to have the mayor do an executive order that will be consistent with this, backed up by an ordinance by Tampa City Council, stating that if that executive order is modified in any way possible, that Tampa City Council would get proper notice. I say this because there is some binding effect with executive orders, but we don't know what's going to happen in the future with a different mayor who could get different advice from council. And by council, I mean attorney. So I want to make sure that we have something there, and that would also require a resolution from Tampa City Council. So we're really in the weeds on this, but it will be out by May 7th. And again, my intent is that there is a mandatory public safety master plan that is done in consultation with the Police Benevolent Association and with Local 754 to be done every certain number of years. So therefore, was somebody saying something? Or?
No, go ahead, keep going.
Okay, thank you. Where was I? So therefore, I motion to have this continued to May 7th, and then we'll have staff prepare on what the proposal will be. On May 7th, we have there.
Unfortunately, it's a full agenda.
That's what I'm working on.
So May 21st.
No, May 7th. I'm working on making it unfull.
Okay.
On that day, I have, on May 7th, I have the in-person report on the status of the special needs program, as well as the Mike Phillips All Abilities program. We just did that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that to a day in July. So let's first,
Should probably do them one at a time.
they're the same thing.
No, I'm saying we should probably move it first and then move these.
Yeah, that's
'cause
what
I
I'm
think-
doing. That's what I'm doing. So therefore, if I may, I move the special needs program and Mike Phillips program for report on July 16th. That's my first motion.
We have a motion from Councilman Vieira, a second from Councilman Maniscalco, and this is the 16th. We have 4, so we're good there, okay? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Just a question, we have 2 reports there, is that the same thing?
Yeah, I moved both
Oh,
of them.
okay.
Yes, ma'am. I moved both of them, yeah.
Okay.
Duplicative, I guess.
So we have a motion to move the staff report on the special needs program to July 16th as well?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
All
and
those-
it's the same
okay.
thing.
But
We
they're
can-
the same thing, so should we
can
take the moment to
Yes,
consolidate?
let's do that. Yes, yes,
Okay,
that's,
so a motion to consolidate both of those items on the July 16th agenda. Is there a second? Second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
and
The ayes
Mr.
have
Chair,
it.
Councilman Miranda.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much. You know, as finance chair, I'm all for this. However, we can plan all we want, but we don't know what's going to happen with the CIT tax. We don't know what's going to happen with the problems we're having now in negotiations. We don't know so many things that are going on. We don't know if we're going to have the money to survive the way we've been surviving if these things pass. I don't know what's going to happen with the government on what they're going to do from Tallahassee down to here. You may get there and straighten it out, but I'm not going to be there. And what I'm saying is, there's so many unknown factors. We can plan all we want, but somewhere in there, you got to have a caveat, how you're going to fund it.
Sure.
So I'm just saying, precautionary, I'll vote for it, but if there's no funding, I can't do it.
So may I respond to that?
Councilman
briefly, Mr.
Vieira?
Chair? Thank you very much. So Councilman Miranda, all this is, the public safety master plan
I
we've been
understand.
discussing for 5 years is a proposed vision of funding priorities. It doesn't fund them. So,
That's exactly funding.
sir.
If we don't have it, what we're going to do then?
but it's good for us to know our deficits.
No, and I'm all for them, but what I look at now, we're fighting ourselves. If we give away our money, there is nothing for funding there.
Yep, well taken.
Thank
Yes, sir. Thank
Okay,
you.
so
that's my motion.
so now we have a original motion from Councilman Vieira to continue item 66 to May 7th, 2026. Now that the agenda's been cleared, is there a second? Second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank
Very
you,
good.
council. Appreciate it.
Okay, is there staff available for item 64?
That's
Are-
gonna be long, 65,
You think so?
yeah. They have a PowerPoint.
Well, how long do you think your presentation will be? For 6 minutes. 8 minutes? Okay, here we go. Start with your name, please.
Detective Andrew Washington, Tampa Police Department. And I have a,
It's coming up.
here we go. Good morning, council. I am Detective Andrew Washington, Tampa Police Department. I'm here to do a report on CM 26-21835, Safety and Compliance Report of Convenience Stores within the city of Tampa. All right, the Tampa Police Department focus on the mission statement. The mission statement of the Tampa Police Department is to work in partnership with our community to reduce crime, improve the quality of life, and make Tampa safer together. With that in mind, a couple of the residents had questions about going into local stores and witnessing and purchasing and seeing expired food on the shelves versus sex toys being displayed. So in the state of Florida, Food Inspection Authority is the state of Florida. A local police department typically cannot enter convenience store and conduct a regulatory food safety inspection. Regulatory and permitting authority over establishments is generally preempted to the state, meaning state agencies in the state of Florida are legally mandated to inspect food on shelves, not local police departments. So in order for that, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, located at Plaza Level 10, the Capitol, 400 South Monroe Street, Tallahassee, Florida. They can be reached at 1-800-HELP-FLORIDA or 1-800-435-7352. So if a resident wants to make a complaint, they would go to this website. On that website, they will choose which complaint to make. You have food illness, restaurant complaints, regulatory food businesses, and food products, which is the food products one is mainly why I'm here today. is for retail service, bakeries, grocery stores, supermarkets, convenience stores, meat/seafood, markets, health food stores, and daily forms. They have a form. There's also a barcode, a QR code that they would use. You go to that to make a complaint.
Can we get the wolf?
I provide you guys with a copy of that. Okay, so it's basically self-explanatory. You go down the line, consumers information, all right, then you go to the food establishment information, and then you state your complaint.
You waiting for the presentation back up, please?
Yes, sir. Oops. All right, then for drug paraphernalia and other items that are displayed, if you want to make a complaint about that, it's the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulations. Same customer contact center, 2601 Blairstone Road, Tallahassee, Florida. Phone number 850-487-1395, or myfloridalicense.com. Go to their website, click on complaint. They have a complaint form on there, and it's the same process. Name, consumer complaint, location of establishment, and then you put in what your complaint is going to be. Now, as far as the stores go itself, the Tampa Police Department takes all reports and observations of unlawful offenses and violations on businesses' property very seriously. Any incidents occurring on the premises or within the business will be thoroughly investigated and ensure compliance with the law and the safety of the community. As in saying, the Tampa Police, our officers, when they observe information and violations being committed and arrests are made, we can also do like a referral form for the Public Nuisance Abatements Board. And with that, if the business goes in front of the Public Nuisance Board, they could be the store property owner, and the store manager could be held liable for the conduct that's occurring inside or outside on the property. And I also provide you guys with the form. And with this referral, it could be completed by Tampa Police Department, and there's steps that you have to follow. And so once we get enough to bring the store business owner or the store manager to the in front of the board, they'll be coming in front of the board for a hearing, and they'll have a chance to hear the complaints against their establishment and offer some feedback, et cetera, and the opportunity to work with us. The Tampa Police Department is not in the business of shutting down businesses. We're in the business of making sure that the community that the business is located in is run a productive or respectable establishment, and it's safe and fair to the consumers that purchase stuff there. So our goal is to keep the business and property, but also to get them to change the conduct that's happening on there. Any questions?
Okay, does council have any questions? Councilwoman Young?
Well, one, thank you, Detective Washington. I really appreciate that. And I just want to bring it back to the purpose of why I made this motion is because, I'm hearing a lot from community members, and it just want to, cleaning up their communities. For me, specifically, I know with East Tampa and West Tampa, but when we initially had this conversation, it was more so citywide. And so that's why, it ranges from, violations from parking lots to food, and sometimes you have community members who really, they just don't know. They say,
Right.
oh, well, we see expired food items. How come TPD or code enforcement can't? So it's more so just addressing, what you can and cannot do. And what's the best way to go about it, and then so that community knows and understands that, we are working towards cleaning up the communities, because that was overall what I was receiving was, how do we clean up the community, and why come TPD or code enforcement isn't? And I'm like, well, let's have them come and explain what they can and cannot do, and then tell us how to move forward with the other items. So I appreciate you for being here and just giving that information. So would love, I'm going to be able to, pass this forward, but thank you for being here and providing that.
Susan, I see you're online. Go ahead and start with your name,
Hi.
please.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, council members. Susan Wenrick, Director of Code Enforcement, Neighborhood Enhancement. And our portion of this is regarding the parking lots. We do enforce the parking lot maintenance for the city of Tampa under Chapter 19-237. In addition, we also will do the exterior, the structural condition to make sure that there are there has to be sealed, painted, and no ways of entry for rodents. And if they'd like to know how to file complaints, they can go through Tampa Connect, or they can use our customer service call center at 813-274-5545.
Thank you, Susan. Councilwoman Young?
I have a question. This information that you're sharing, can this be put online? Like
Yes, it's online. Yes, ma'am, it's online.
So did you all like submit like a memo or a presentation or something that can be put like into OnBase?
It's online on the site that for the.
Yes. It says it's on the
That's
site?
correct.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda?
Thank you.
Your light was on?
I'm sorry.
Councilman Maniscalco?
I want to thank you for the time that you've taken to put this presentation together, and to Councilmember Young for leading on this, because the community did come out quite a few times, and now we have clarity as to how the public can you put the forms up and what they can do to whether at the state level or even locally, if it's a food issue or if it's a public nuisance issue. So I'm glad, because now I know, and now the public knows. And it's always good to see Susan Wenrick, who does a great job over at her department. So that's really it. Thank you. Because Councilmember Young, hit the ground running on this, and we're very happy to see it. Thank you.
Councilman Carlson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the same thing. Thank you to Councilmember Young. Thank you to staff for all the time you put into this. It's very important to the community. We've all heard a lot of comments about this, and I'm sure people watching appreciate you for showing all this thing.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes that.
Great. Thank you.
Moving on
You're
to
welcome.
item number 65. On Palonis Park.
Yeah, I think.
Here we go. How you doing, Mr. Fowler?
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good. Start with your name, please.
Ted Fowler, Parks and Recreation Director.
Okay. Would like to report on what's happening with that transfer?
Yeah, I'm just here to answer questions at what we could do with the money. I understood Mr. Councilmember Carlson made the motion a couple weeks ago. We would absolutely be able to use that money in the Port Tampa area or wherever council designates it to be used. We can absolutely make some nice amenities in South Tampa with that $650,000.
Okay. Is that, if there's nothing further, I see Mr. Kopesky
Yeah,
is up to
and
talk.
I think she could help explain too. But Mr. Fowler, do you, what my office has talked to Ms. Kopesky, I don't remember if we talked to you, Mr. Fowler, but in your opinion, does council need to do anything else other than the vote we already took to move this forward?
No, I don't believe so. We can speak offline and we can get the details.
Thank you. I know we talked briefly about it, but not a lot. Is there anything else you want to add?
Just quickly, Hager Kopesky, City Council Budget Analyst. I just want to make sure I'm clear. During the last council meeting, I know there was some acceleration because there was a press conference, and I know you made the motion. I thought there was a request to have a bit more discussion, and there was not, I thought, a vote in new business.
If he think,
Again, I don't mean to be controversial.
Just for clarity, Mr. Councilman Carlson, would you like to just so we're clear, would you like to make the motion again to transfer it?
Can you tell us technically what needs to be in the
Right, I
motion?
will. Yes, I absolutely will. So essentially, as Ms. Pointer and as Councilman Carlson has discussed, probably sometime last year, there was a need to put in a gas pipeline near McCoy Street and Prescott Street. And so as a result of that, they provided, the Florida Gas Transmission provided $650,000 for a settlement. And so in light of the fact that that was in Port Tampa, and the fact that, as Ted has said, that there are a number of things, and I'm only putting this up here to reflect what still needs to be done in the Palonis and South Gandy project. Is it
zoom it out?
Okay, so the only section I want you to be interested in is right here. Yep. And this was just to, again, remind all of you, you approved a 1.5 GMP, that got specific things done, very structural though, and there are a number of things in these bullets that are still remaining, and thus it would make sense to be able to redeploy the 650 from the small parks budget into the AJ Polonis project.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
We have a
There's a
motion from
long way
Councilman
around.
Carlson. Just for clarity, I believe this is already done, but a second from Councilwoman Hurtak. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
Do we need to ask for a funding request resolution? So I make a motion to have a funding resolution brought back at the May 21st council, well, I guess May 7th, because it can be put on,
Is that soon enough? I mean, is
on
that too?
consent. Is that too soon?
For resolution.
Because what is the deadline for
Pesky?
something to go through?
I would give it the second.
Okay, so May 21st.
I'll be a motion, Councilwoman Hurtak, a second from Councilman Maniscalco. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, it is lunchtime. Please be back at 1:25 so that we can be ready for the 1:30 hearing, Mr. Shelby.
Before you do that, are we done? Are we
We're
done
done
with all
with the
the
rest
staff
of the
reports?
agenda, yes.
It's only the 1:30 hearing is the only thing
Only
remaining?
1:30 hearing, old
And
business, new business.
Old business, new business.
1:25, please.
Yeah, we got a lot of new business.
Muted.